AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
And welcome everybody to our Saturday show. Are you coming up here? Our Saturday show, where we answer gun questions, as the introduction said there. I'm going to take a moment and grab my little co-host, and we'll play a commercial for our gear website store.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
All right. So I've got some coffee being made over here. I'll have to take a second and grab that. Hopefully Tony or Clover will join in tonight or this afternoon. And they can, you let them know, I'll seamlessly go grab my coffee. But since you can probably hear it finishing over there, got to enjoy a dark espresso roast of coffee with some chocolate milk in there. There we go. Make sure I turn it off. I do have 2 more espresso machines coming in, but I don't want to fry this one. I like that little espresso machine. All right, well, we're going to end up talking about espresso unless somebody asks some questions. Let's go over and check out the database. So on Saturdays, we get together with some people that have owned guns our whole lives, and we answer gun questions that come into the website over there. And you can open up a database. All the stuff goes into a Google spreadsheet. I call it a database. And let's see, we've got questions in here going back as far as 2017 on this one. Probably used some other form before that. And it looks like the most recent one is, can PMC 38G bronze 38 special ammo be used in 38 special? So let's go find out what this stuff is. PMC bronze 38 special. Go look it up if you want. I'm going to go throw that into a search engine and see what it says. Well, 38 special. I don't know what the 38G means. 38 grains? No. So no idea what the G means on there without looking at all of them here. Here's the PMC ammo website. That's who makes it, right? Yeah, no idea what the G means. So it looks like it's just 38 special. So yeah, why wouldn't you be able to use it in 38 special? That's why they put the names on there. Not sure what the if I'm missing something on that question. If somebody who's listening can imagine what how I'm misunderstanding that one, but doesn't seem like seems like a no-brainer there. All right, so we got an interesting one here. Hey, stop it! Oh, hear that? So this one says, I just bought a Dickinson Arms Marine 12 gauge tactical shotgun. So we're going to go figure out what that's all about. And I'm looking for a gun safe that can hold it. I need the smallest safe possible that can hold it. I don't want something big and clunky that will stick out. I need it to be as sweet as possible. Do you know if the following would work? So that's a good question. So they're telling us what they've got, and we're going to take a look at that. I guess screen share. It's about extra cam. That's not always there. Noticed a little button in StreamYard here. I think every time we go on StreamYard now, a button at the or a link at the let you join. So if you ever want to join StreamYard, use that link at the bottom there. We'll do that, and so let's take a look at the Dickinson Arms shotguns. A couple of people joined today, so I don't know if I thought it did. Maybe I did it okay. Slow my internet is. Pretty lost the screen. A small after it. Grain. Is there really 38 special? I don't really pay attention, but I thought there was a lot more than that. All right, a Dickinson Arms. They're all over the place. Guessing it means this thing. So we're talking 20-inch barrel shotgun with a stock that doesn't fold or anything. It might collapse, but it looks pretty long in pictures. I don't see any pictures of it collapsed. So let's assume that it is pretty long. All right, so that's the shotgun we're talking about. And then the question is, I need the smallest safe possible. So will it work with this cabinet for pistol homes, adjustable, and I attached a link to its Amazon page. So we'll put all this in and see if that brings up the Amazon page, and then we'll know which one. Oh, crap. Then we'll know which one we're talking about here. I have to grab that shotgun, I guess. Yeah, we know what the shotgun is. A 20-inch long shotgun. These are all Is there one from Amazon? Yep. So this is the one they're talking about. I think we can link. Can I link to this? I think I can link to this. If anybody wants to check it out. So this is a pretty tall safe. Does it say how long it is or how tall it is? It said the 4 to 10 rifle safe. So scroll down a ways and you get to the information about it. Here we go. 55 inches tall. So yeah, that rifle's or that shotgun's 20-inch barrel. I think it should fit in there. But we can go figure it out again by typing in the name of the shotgun into the internet again, figuring out who's selling it and looking at its, oh, you know what? I can just type in overall length. Weston is saying, just got back from the range. Foggy, misty day. Yeah, it's definitely rainy and foggy out here. Oh, I see we got some questions coming in. I'll start starring those, sir. Thanks for the questions. So let's get back to, let's try to figure out what the overall length of this thing is. We'll go to Sportsman's Warehouse. That's a Canadian company. Dickinson Arms, is that their gun? All right, so action choke. Are they going to give us an overall? Nah, they're not. But if that's 20 inches right there, then you figure at the most it's 40 inches. So don't think they're going to give us any more information than that. That's lame. All right, so yeah, I think it'll fit into this thing, no problem. It's a little big. So what I'd recommend, their question was, need the smallest safe possible that can hold it. I don't want something big and clunky that'll stick out. I want it to be discreet as possible. So I think we can just stay on Amazon and type in something like in the wall rifle safe. And now you get something like this one, which is 43 inches tall. You have to cut some drywall, and then you put it in between studs, like your closet or in a small room or something, behind a door maybe. And then this way it's out of sight and out of mind. And then if someone does find it, they still got to kind of bust open a safe or rip. It's really hard to rip it out of your wall, so kind of difficult. Unlike a regular safe, which people don't think about it, but regular safes are typically lockers. They're just lockers with some plaster Paris in them. So most people are criminal, not most, but some criminals will just steal them. They'll just take the whole safe and leave with it. This makes it a lot harder to leave with the safe. They have to find it first, and then they have to be able to rip it out of your walls, which is a lot tougher. It's not impossible. New houses aren't made out of iron. Merry Christmas to everybody that's saying Merry Christmas. This is being recorded on Christmas Eve, I think. So how it's nationally known as the eve before Christmas Eve. No, it's just the eve before Christmas. So anyway, I think this is a better deal. Let's see, $239 for that one, and what was the other one cost? $159. So I guess this one costs more. I got one time in a trade though, so go to gun shows, hang out with people, live life, and you'll potentially find one in a trade. Now, could you get this thing and jam it in your wall? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. And you can still, bolt it into someplace really good. But these are cabinets. They just look like safes a little bit, but they're cabinets. They're going to stop. They're going to keep honest people honest. My main concern is that they're not safes for sure. They don't cost very much, so it's not a big deal. But the shelves are kind of junky. So I've changed them out. Usually when I've had these things in the past, I'll change them out with different material, different safe or different shelf materials. I find their shelves flimsy. So that's the question is, will it fit in there? Yes. And as far as that, like I just said, I gave them another option there with the one that goes into the wall. So let's take a look at some of the questions that are coming up. Can I just open up the thing? Yeah, I can. So that's the show right now. You're looking at yourselves in the mirror, essentially. It's creepy, right? A lot of people don't do it. Do I have the 2024 calendar yet? No, I don't, because I've had a gig. I wish I got paid to do stuff like this, but the Patreons, there's link at the bottom of the screen there says Patreons make it possible for us to spend time on this. Projects like this one, for sure. Like, I definitely can spend time on this, but I don't make a living doing this. So the things that I do make a living on are ripe right now because of Christmas time. So my attention and my time have been spent getting money. So that's dwindling, as Christmas is ending. That'll dwindle. And I'm hoping to have it up before actually 2024. And it's just going to go to, what's that called? Print on demand. So, whenever it's done, click, 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 people can start to download it. But it's not done already. But the good news is 99% of it is always done. I just have to recalculate it to a new year and add whatever new things. I mean, it takes a couple of 3 days probably of real work on it. I just haven't had I've had the time, but I've used that time for making money. So sorry, I have to make money. I'm not rich. The good news is I want to thank our Patreons for making it possible for me to keep doing all this stuff all year. I almost had to drop it all because I got that poor. But I was able to keep it all going thanks to Patreon. So if you want to join in, be one of the members, subscribers that lets us do what we do, then jump over by Patreon. You can be a YouTube channel member. It just takes a 40% bite out of it or something like that. It's appreciated, but you're giving 40% of your money to YouTube. I don't know what Patreon takes anymore. It used to be a lot cheaper. I think it's added a little bit more. It might be like 13% now, something like that. But nothing's free. So anyhow, calendars are first thing as soon as I have time of my own. But I've had to do other things. So I'm saying here, good morning to everybody. Been drinking the Cafe Bustiello espresso roast. So second cup today. First one at like 7 a.m. Second one at 11 a.m. So we're doing all right. I'm trying not to drink anymore today. Let's see. Aldo's getting some coffee as well. And let's see. Then that's what Mike was saying about the G, mean, and grains. I'll take your word for it. I'm not enough familiar with those. I must have probably one box of PMC 38s. I'm sure I have some PMC 40s, and I probably have some PMC 45s, but I don't have a lot of PMC ammo. I'm wondering if I have any PMC 38. All right, so now we have a real question. I'm wondering if anyone knows anything about the building an MP5 Kurtz from a stamping. I have the skills to do TIG as well. Where's a good place to start figuring out the fixtures and stuff? I don't know about that one. Back in the olden days, I started building flintlock gun kits when I was a little kid. So I've always built 80% guns. Those have always been a thing, literally always been a thing since the beginning of time. Like no guns were built. People had to build them themselves at first. And then there's just always been people that built their own guns. But so for me, it was when I was a little kid putting those together. I think the first time I thought about putting together a gun probably was getting out of the Army. And you go, I want to put something together like what I just carried, right? And back in those days, it would have been something in semi-auto, and it would have been a lame, and it would have cost a lot. It would have been a lame version of it, and it would have cost a lot, so I didn't even bother. Then probably when I was at AOL, we used to sit around, had a lot of time on our hands, and we had way too much money, so we would sit around buying stuff out of Shotgun News. Not really on lunch. We did that while we were working. It was pretty fun. And back in those days, we started thinking about kits and stuff. So I started putting together AK kits in about 2005, maybe 2004. I don't remember. No, I think I do remember. I got my first Romanian kit. I remember putting it on Oro's thing, so it had to be 2005 or 6, I guess. 5. He came around in 3. So, yeah, it's something like 4. And anyway, so we went right to AKs, and I went right past. I did one FAL. That was about as close as I got. So I'm just not familiar enough with them. Back in those days, though, it was crude, if anything. You were buying really crude 80%ers, and I think they were already shells, and you would just bend them and weld them or something. But, yeah, I don't know. That's a good one. Thing is, with YouTube, they probably have a fit about the conversation even. So you're not going to get much content on YouTube about it. You'd have to go to a platform that doesn't have some kind of artificial fear of it. Now, that fear is probably based on media ignorance or media strategy. I don't think the media is really all as ignorant as they act like they are. I think a lot of them are ignorant because it's easier to be ignorant, but the ones that are really paying attention strategically act ignorant. And one of the things I act ignorant about is this whole idea that assembling a firearm from components is notorious or has connotation. It's all bullshit. So because of that, you've got platforms that try to just, do everything across the board without getting in any kind of gray areas, and building gets swept under the rug or has gotten swept under the rug. It's bullshit. Normalizing building and normalizing this is something that is difficult because only a portion of the gun community deals with it or even has any interest in it. And then those that do, half of them don't want to talk about it. Half of them just want to mind their business, which is their right. But when you mind your business and do everything in the closet, guess what? Nobody knows what you're doing, and nobody gives a shit about what you're doing in your closet, because that's what you asked them to do, leave you alone when you're in your closet. So you can't have it both ways. You can't ask people to give a shit about what you do in the closet and then do it in your closet. So we depend on the few people that are willing to do it out in the open and talk about it. And now you're limited to the people that are interested in that kind of attention. And how often are those people altruistic as opposed to wanting something out of it? So it's a frustrating dilemma. It's not our only dilemma, but one we will eventually, through discussions and awareness, we'll get past. We'll have more people added to the mix that aren't weird or seeking fame and fortune, and those people will normalize this portion of it the same way that someone can build a convertible in their garage and nobody gives them a second look. It's not licensed, right? That thing they're putting together hasn't been safety tested. A child could get the keys to it and drive it all around recklessly, but nobody gives any thought to that because it's normalized. We just have to wait until guns are normalized again. We can do that, or we can wait for it to happen, or you can actively participate in it, right? So that's where I'm taking that question, because I don't know the actual answer to it. Nobody really does it because it's a super expensive gun that's really hard to make semi-auto. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're not that hard to make semi-auto. But because you have to get semi-auto guts to it, I just don't think it's been a popular thing. But I don't pay any attention to German guns. So there might be a giant group of people that work with it, and I'm just not aware of it. There's probably somebody that's 3D printing something that you bend around. I wouldn't be surprised about that. Let's see. But I don't know if that was a satisfactory answer or not. I think Tony said he's jumping in, so he'll be able to offer his POV on that one. So Weston is saying, just got back from the range, foggy and misty. Yeah, exactly. It's like I say, it was supposed to be done raining here at 2 a.m. Evidently, the world didn't get the weather reports instructions, and it's still raining out there. It's kind of annoying when you have a house that's falling apart. I'd like it to not rain. So I moved to the desert, so I didn't have to pay for a roof for a reason. So 500 is saying, I'm going to be getting my first AR-15 soon. I've already gotten some magazines and ammo for it. That's good. Picked up one mag I've never heard of. It's called a UTG, made in Taiwan. Any experience with the company? Yeah, UTG is an inexpensive aftermarket accessory company. And, like anything that's inexpensive and aftermarket or third party, you're going to get different opinions on it. I've got a mess of their stickers, I can tell you that. Let me go look at their stuff. For me, I have to go look at it. It's been a while since I've paid attention to them. Let's see. Am I allowed to look at scopes? I'm going to type in UTG magazines and see what happens. When you take a look at one, a UTG Pro Mag. So I don't have to worry about getting paid by these people. So when you look at it, it's very much like a PMag. So they took a PMag and they incorporated it looks like a Ranger plate into the bottom right away, and just changed a PMag around. So I don't know if those are all right or not. That's just not what I expected. I was expecting to see an older, clunky kind of one. But I don't know. Depends on how well the plastic, let's see. So in this kind of magazine, it'll depend on how well the seam holds up. So that'll be the first thing to fall apart. If this is an adhesion or if it's a vibration weld or what it is, or if that's just one big mold. And then if that is the case, where the materials meet and where the seam is and all that, because if this is just a mold mark. But essentially how well it's going to hold up there. Then what the material's made out of will start to destroy these mag lips or not. So those are pretty critical in an AR. If the mag lips aren't there, then there's nothing holding the rounds in place, and they start to put pressure on the bolt, and it doesn't work anymore. Plus, it just kind of falls apart when you pull it out. Then the feeder or the follower, if that's not a good material mix with the outside material, if they don't have a natural lubrication with each other, then they're going to melt to each other, bind to each other naturally. So if the materials aren't matched, you got an issue there. And then, of course, tolerances. So there has to be tolerances. I don't see any holes for any kind of stuff to fall out of this mag, which means any sand and loose dirt and powdery garbage. Where are you at? Back east. Some mud and silt, right? Bug wings and shit like that. That kind of stuff getting in there. You got all kinds of peat moss and crap like that, like organic crap that'll stick to the sides of stuff and be liquid, and then it'll dry out and be crusty. So you got that kind of issue on an AR mag. The bottom is integral. So, mags either come apart or they don't. And I can't tell. I'm assuming this one comes apart, but that can be an issue. It either comes apart easily or not. Like everybody complains about a Glock magazine because, it's hard to come apart. But guess what? They don't accidentally ever come apart. Shitty mags that come apart easily are very comfortable and they don't hurt your fingers. But as soon as you actually need them, they fall apart like garbage. So I don't know how these are, but that's the next issue. And then the other one would be just how flimsy the material is. If it's too cheap of a plastic or if it's not like the right kind of a glass embedding, it's going to be so pliable that when you squeeze it here, it's going to be shitty and that'll eventually wear it out. And that's just an indication that the plastic's shitty and it's not going to last very long. If you step on it, it'll crack, and not just most like a P mag. You can step on it 100 times and it don't care. But a cheap mag, you step on it 3 times and it wears out. It breaks. So Tony, do you know anything about the UTGs? I've just been saying stuff that in general I know about PMAG or about AR mags, where their stress points are and where I've seen them fail.
Well, I don't know anything about. I didn't even know UTG made mags. Obviously, I played airsoft, so I got some stuff from UTG, some stuff from what is it called, Leapers. Those are the 2 companies, and now I see somebody down in the comments. Yeah, Leapers actually owns UTG now.
Yeah, it looks like they're the same, or they subsidiary or something.
Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't. They have just a different quality control because you look at the price and something was given up. You know what I mean? If you don't build something at the quality of a PMAG and don't charge PMAG prices, like something's given up. Nobody goes, yeah, I'm giving this money away that we could be making. So that's the way I feel about it. But check it out, try it. Heck, make it a training magazine.
I think a lot of times people will see like like shoes or purses or jeans or backpacks or something that's like a commodity that you buy inexpensively, put your name on it or have it cut just a little bit differently and put your logo on it and then sell it for a massive markup. I don't think all gun components are that way. Firearms components, like especially pieces like this, they're made out of different materials. They're, like you're saying, quality control is maybe every batch gets checked instead of 3 batches a shift, or every rack and 1 out of every rack instead of 1 out of every batch of 12 racks, or some sort of difference where it takes more human beings or they discard more or something, or the material just costs a lot more. And I think you see more variation there with gun parts than you do with clothing or something, where the clothing might be a little bit different, but essentially it's still cotton or whatever. I don't want to dismiss the differences in clothing because I know there's probably people that know more about it and know that there's a difference there, or no differences that I don't. But you know what I'm saying? I think that there's sometimes these things can look the same, but that don't mean much at all because we know what mil spec is and it's just a dimension thing. So something can look identical but be made out of garbage, material.
Mm-hmm. But again, because he has it already, 500 Magnum says he has it. Run it. Make those your training mags. See if they stand up to use and abuse. And if they rock, you might have just found a cheat code in having good mags. And if they break or if they stop working correctly, again, these are training magazines. So you get to work on that. What happens if a mag fails? What happens if you get a failure to feed, double feed? All of that.
That's a good point. People that only work with the best stuff don't induce stuff, don't deal with stuff that gets frustrating. And if you can run a garbage piece, then you're going to probably be able to run a nicer piece better, you know. So there's something to say for that. If it is garbage, I would still run it until it falls apart. But because, like you just said, you don't have an opportunity to see what happens when a mag gets stuck in there. Like decent mags don't get stuck in your mag well, but garbage ones will. I don't know. We're acting like this one's a garbage. I mean, maybe it is.
No. I mean, I'm not acting like it's garbage, but I'm going, okay, the downsides aren't really that bad. I mean, it's still an opportunity, even
maybe
if it's
scenario, if it's bad.
If it's what?
I guess I shouldn't have said that. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Like worst case scenario, whereas we're trying to say, like, if it's the worst case scenario and it's a bad mag, then it's not even all that bad a deal.
Exactly. Because again, the stuff that I'd used from UTG, it worked. But again, it was for airsoft, but it's not like you don't bang that around. And then when I came around and got regular ARs, some of the stuff I used, slings, still use the same sling. If the sling breaks, all right, cool, but I'm just training with it. And they held out. Never mind. I was thinking of some of the load bearing equipment I use, like, you know, chest rig. That was Condor brand, and everybody was saying, "Oh, that's just the airsoft stuff." Meanwhile, I've run them in classes, and it works. I ran it using SKS stripper clips, and I ran it using AR mags, and the stuff still held up. And now it's about 11 years old. So yeah, if you haven't, check it out. And truthfully, sometimes check it out. If you're rolling through something and you're about to check out and you don't have enough for free shipping, you're a couple of bucks away, give something inexpensive a try. If it's, you know, something you're thinking about, give something inexpensive a try just to see if it works. Don't just depend on word of others, because some people throw stuff under a bus because it gets them more likes. Some people might have had a bad experience, or they just use the product wrong. You've noticed it. You've read reviews from people.
If you're
what was that?
Or they're just doing something different. A carpenter and a bricklayer and a plumber are all going to have a different review of a toolbox, because one of them's carrying around bricks and one of them's carrying around, you know, lightweight garbage, and one of them's carrying around sloppy stuff. Then they all have different needs. So
it might apply to you differently.
Yeah, and the worst case is YouTube. So the worst case is hopefully you got a YouTube channel, you can review it and get a little mileage out of their purchase there. And then usually if I buy bad stuff, like garbage stuff, like I still own garbage gear. That's why I'm confident in saying some of it's garbage, and I don't get offended when I, call my gear garbage, because I've also bought decent gear when I felt like this, let's say a garbage backpack, for example, like this thing was cheap or whatever, it worked at the time, whatever the excuse is that you bought it at the time, right? So now you have a junky backpack, and now you decide I'm going to buy something decent, like a real good backpack that I know I can never have to buy another backpack if I want to, because it'll last forever. I like it, or I like the functions of it also. So then that's the one you carry around, and then the other one goes in the van, or like the other one goes into the closet to be the one that you take with fishing, or it's like your second backpack when you bring all that stuff for the dogs at the park or something. So it's not like you have to throw these things away and only have decent stuff. Just delegate it to something that don't matter, like the dog toys, or the stuff that for the pool or something. And it's just a way to tote stuff around the house or store some pillows or something.
Yeah, I often wonder, what does the people that, the whole buy once, cry once, and I don't own garbage. I'm like, what do you use for secondary gear? Or what do you use just as a bag? Like, is everything Mystery Ranch?
Yeah, I know people have really nice stuff for everything, but that's fine. They're just paying for it. I mean, if they got the money to pay for it. But yeah, I mean, they do make like garbage, U.S. made, not garbage, but like lame in U.S. made. I'm going to say like storage bags or travel bags and things. Yes, for sure. Like duffel bags. Like, why would you make a duffel bag when you can just get an Army duffel bag? But sure enough, somebody makes like an actual duffel bag made out of better material with better sewing for some reason.
Yeah, no, I'm like, is everything in your life like that? Okay, cool. But man, that sounds expensive. The free National Guard, because remember when they were doing that, the National Guard was putting out backpacks in that ACU cam.
Mhm.
I had one of those because a friend of mine was in the National Guard in recruiting, and they had a bunch of them. And he was like, "Here."
Because then it wasn't cool anymore. You're talking like the camo wasn't
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
camo wasn't cool, and it had, Army National Guard on it. Well,
That's
I
why I like
didn't.
multicam so much, because it turned all the desert into cheap, and it turned all that digital stuff that everybody hated into super cheap. Like nobody wanted that next to multicam anymore. And once there was surplus multicam, which I love, I don't have a problem with multicam, but it just makes all the other surplus. Nobody wants it. It's awesome, and it's all made to spec, so it's excellent stuff.
Exactly. So yeah, I have some cheap bags. I have good bags. I got gray ghosts. They were cool. Tactical Tailor. You see my Tactical Tailor bag at Shot. Uh, the Desert Cam chocolate chip, whatever.
I always have
And that
for made in the USA stuff, but it's like, again, I do throw away my stuff that falls apart, but my USA stuff doesn't fall apart.
Mhm.
But yeah, like if I get a cheap bag or my stuff from when I was a kid or whatever, like it's still holding a tent together or it's still doing something until it falls apart. All right, so we had a question came in from Aldo, was asking about making I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this, but I'm gonna keep talking about MP5 from a stamping, like building a MP5 from a stamp type of kit, and has some skills with a TIG. And then I think this follow up was asked Yankee about it, but can't get magazines to convert. This is a second question, I think, because I don't, unless an MP5, in my crazy, but an MP5 is a German, like little sub gun, right? Crazy.
yeah, I might have heard of it.
Yeah, right. So if that's what I was thinking when I was answering. But anyway, do you have any experience with building them? Because essentially they're a metal shell, and then all the guts inside of it, you get that as a parts kit. So have you ever built them, or you're in New Jersey,
No,
so it's not like, yeah.
nope, we're not allowed to build stuff here. And no, I don't know anything about building them. And I was living vicariously through you at one time back in the day with the AK build kits. You
Right. And
guys used to have.
that's why I started out, just like, hey, I can do stuff out here that I know you can't do back east. And that's what we would do, is
Hmm.
shooting and just, buy stuff and go to gun shows and stuff just to kind of share on the internet. Anyway,
Hmm. Yeah, so I'm drinking my Cafe Bustelo.
oh, right on. You're going to be up. Well,
They
for me,
call me in.
2 cups. I'll be up till tomorrow sometime. I'll be up for Foster's show later.
Yeah, they called me in today, so I had to go in. Knocked out 2 jobs real quick and roll back, man. That's when I saw the thing in the car. I'm like, okay, cool. Um, yeah, it sucks that I live in a state that doesn't allow us to do something that is a constitutional right, which is build firearms. And because I was intrigued by it when you were doing it. And then, if you remember, back in the same time period, Jim Fuller was doing it with Rifle Dynamics, that you could go out there with a build kit, and they had build parties
Yeah,
back
well,
in.
they still do that at Rifle Dynamics in Vegas.
Mhm.
But well, it's more of a, it's not as informal as like when there was the build parties. We would all just get together and build in somebody's garage, and like maybe people would bring some tools, or somebody, the person who would host it might have had space or something on a workbench, and then people bring their own tools, kind of thing, and then we bullshit and share ideas and then show off and talk about how we're going to finish them or something like that, or swap furniture and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Where Fuller's is more like you bring your stuff and it's a classroom and everybody's sitting at a workstation. It's like being in shop class essentially, and then you get instruction from a knowledgeable instructor guy who talks to you about what you're going to be doing, and then you're putting it together. I want to say like under supervision or whatever, like with the ability to have like people who know what they're doing right there. So
Mhm.
more formal than, I guess what I was saying, than what we started out with back in the old days. But at the same time, um, there was just less time on the clock. Like, we were figuring it all out back in the old days, and the assault weapons ban had just ended in 4, and it took a minute for stuff to start flowing in. I mean, it started immediately, but to actually have it start accumulating here where people could buy it and stuff took a minute. It took a couple of years. And then there wasn't that many people interested in it. You could go buy a Wasser for $250, $300. Why would you want to build an AK when you could get a working Wasser, be done with it, or fill in the blank? Any other AK was like $500. We'll have to do another shotgun news reminiscing
Yeah.
where we go back and look at those prices.
Yeah, I just shot Aldo a message. Yeah, I was joking about the MP5K. Yeah, I know. I know what it is because they used to be in those magazines, you know, when they had the prices, the year-end prices, or the quarterly one where they had the prices of all the guns in them, and you'd hit the HK page, and it will have the HK MP5, you know, that civilians could buy.
Oh, you're talking like the end of the year buyer's guide, or like the
Mm-hmm.
2000, or like it would have been the guns in 1998 or something. Yeah,
Yep.
those were, that was meant, every single one of those that I know of was, you'd open that up and you'd start having discussions like the same as people do now on the internet. Exactly the same. Like,
Yep.
this gun I'd buy. Oh no, that one's got the wrong grip angle. I'd buy this one. Like those 7 rounds. That one's not even a 45 ACP. Like, and then you'd close the book and get mad at the guy for a while, and then maybe 2 weeks
And that-
later, you open the book.
And I'd be the weirdo because I'd look at things like the Daewoo. Oh man, that's a Daewoo. That's that crazy pistol, or that's a Daewoo rifle. Or
all equally as unobtainable for the most part.
Uh-huh.
Unless you had money or something. Like, we were all looking at like kids looking at the Christmas catalog, right? Like, so yeah, pick whatever you want because we're not getting any of it really.
Any of it. So last night though, all right, going back, I think we've spoken about this when we went over the old Soldier of Fortunes. And I was talking about the story where the Soldier of Fortune, the writer from Soldier of Fortune that was a contractor, was in Africa training a unit in anti-guerrilla tactics, and they came under fire. Well, being a civilian trainer in the country, he wasn't allowed to have a military rifle. He was allowed to have a handgun. Well, they came under attack by a single guerrilla fighter from the bush, opens fire on his group that he's training in marksmanship. His government troops all take off running and leave him in the bush by himself with a handgun versus an AK-equipped guerrilla fighter. And his handgun is a SIG P210. And he proceeds to get into a gunfight at over 100 yards distance. He was able to put a round through the head of the guerrilla fighter equipped with an AK with his SIG P210. So that was one of those stories that stuck with me, you know, as a youngster, rereading the 1983, you know, June 1983 Soldier of Fortune for the 75th time. And last night I got to shoot one of the new Target P210s at the range. So I was in Pennsylvania shooting at the range last night. A friend of mine who works at a gun shop brought his collection or some of his collection to the range. So I got to shoot some cool guns, but I was really geeked out about this new SIG P210 Target that's made in the USA. Very good trigger, good sights. Pretty much I put 5 rounds through one hole at about 7 yards just to check it out. Like the hole never got bigger than about 2 rounds wide. So that was an adventure. I also got to check out a few more higher end guns because that's all he buys. And it was a lot of fun, but I was really gun nerded out with the P210, which was, if people don't know, at one time, it's still supposedly one of the most expensive service handguns ever adopted by a country because it was so well made. They still use them as target guns in Switzerland today.
They reissued it or something a couple years back.
Yeah. SIG put it out again, and what year is it? Had to be 2020, I think. They brought them back out, made America versions because they are not cheap guns. I think they run about.
They're like unobtainable. Like nobody sells them either because they don't want to get rid of them, type of thing.
Well, SIG's making new ones now, so you can buy those. But the originals made in they're high end. They're selling them. People are selling them, but I'm thinking $5,000 for the original Swiss made SIG P210s, but for the ones made in what is it, Exeter, New Hampshire? That's where SIG produces their stuff at. I think those are in the $1,500 to $2,000 range.
Did SIG stay there, or did they move to like Georgia or South Carolina or something?
Oh, they'll probably move if they're smart.
I don't know. I think I might be getting them mixed up. I've been trying to read some of the comments. I'm way behind, so I'm never going to catch up at 45 minutes. I did start a couple of them, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so last night my man and Eric hooked me up. It was really funny because he volunteered at one of my events, and then we had I've known him because I volunteer at his events. He hosts CNJFO's youth shoots, so of course every one of them they have, I volunteer and go and help. And he helped me at two of mine, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to take some of my guns out." He was like, "I have a CZ Checkmate I want to check out because I haven't shot much. I have the brand new CZ DWX. I haven't even shot that. I have a SIG P226 Legion. I want to check that out." Like, he just started banging out these high-end guns that he wanted to, run. And I'm like, I don't know. It's Friday, and I was like, on Friday I go compete in. Wait a minute, what am I thinking? Heck yeah, I'll be there. What am I thinking? I can either go compete with my Glock or shoot about $15,000 worth of handguns that he happens to bring. and by $15,000 of handguns, I mean like 6. So yeah, so that was last night. He has high-end guns, man. I think the least expensive gun was like the 10mm Springfield 1911. I think that might have been the most, and nothing there cost under $1,500. I think maybe.
Well, I mean, depending on what you do for a living and what money's worth to you, of course, everybody's different there. But then I was going to say, living in a place like New Jersey, where it's going to be a hassle and a pain in the butt to just even get into the game, and then each one, the acquisition and effort and everything is just amplified. You get pissed probably when you hear about, we just go to a gun show and buy 6 guns, with $40 because they're just junky little, collection guns or whatever. Just, where in some states that would be an ordeal with a bunch of FFLs and wait times, and you'd have to ration them out over a number of months and all this garbage. So if you're dealing with all that nonsense, I could totally see investing real money into guns, I mean, they're definitely investment vehicles. People do spend a ton of money on them, but I could see that being concentrated in the states where it's more of a hassle to have them at all.
That, and I mean, you're in Jersey, East Coast, right outside you, between New York and Philly. So it's the bedroom community of two of the largest and business centers on the East Coast. So you have money here.
Money there, you're saying?
Yeah, you have money here, and Eric has a really, really good job, but he also works at a gun shop. So you sell guns, you get to buy them almost at cost or whatever the gun shop will do for you, and plus you get points from certain manufacturers on future purchases. I don't know if people know that or not, but yeah, that's why some of those guys at a gun shop aim you at a certain direction. It's like, yeah, because if they sell X number of these, they get so many points in getting something from that company themselves. But yeah, he does pretty good for himself. And I had a great time last night. I got to shoot a Scandium frame 1911 from Smith & Wesson, their Performance Center 1911, with a 4-inch barrel or something like that, 4 to 4.5-inch barrel, and really enjoyed it. I thought that would be a problem with something that's about 28 ounces launching 45s, but
you said 45 Colt?
45 in 1911, yeah, 45 ECP.
Oh, 45 ECP.
Mm-hmm.
But in a revolver.
No.
Oh, a Scandium frame 1911.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm misunderstanding. I'm picturing when you said scandium, I guess I just went right to revolver in my head.
Nope. The revolver I messed around with last night or touched was the wow, I can see the letter and I can't even make the word. Um, Rhino. Chiappa Rhino. They had one that was rainbow colored, but for some bizarre reason, they made it in single action only. Horrible idea.
Like the anodized rainbow, like sheen, or like
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Like that crazy rainbow changing color
yeah,
sheen. And, because for me, a lot of what I do when I go into a gun shop, after I look at things like I'm interested in, I'm looking at things that will make an impact for the diversity shoot. And the more colorful you have a gun, one, it stands out. Two, more people take photos of it. And three, a lot of the new generation of potential gun owners or gun owners, they're not stuck in that it has to be black or it has to be flat dark earth when it comes to a firearm. Like somebody might want something because it looks different. And if I can take the one that looks different and showcase that and go, yeah, and if you don't like this color, oh, they sell it in black or, they sell it in brushed chrome or whatever, or stainless.
yeah. Well, you don't know where somebody's coming from. Just like they might be coming at it from a race gun or competition or Olympic shooters. Theirs look kind of goofy sometimes. So if they're looking at a aesthetic from a a fast or a competition gun, they're going to want those kind of colors and race
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. All right, well, getting back to the ones I have starred over here. Oh wait, what did I do? I'm looking at the wrong side of the screen. Although saying I have an 870 Magnum. Or no, wait, I just killed the other one. The other one had something to do with 22 magazines out of a 1911. I have no idea about that one. I was going to ask.
Yeah, me neither. I was looking at that. I didn't understand it. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know that one either. It's too specific. I just don't have a 1911, and if I did, I don't have a 22 conversion kit for it, so I'm just not sure.
Sounds awesome, though.
I don't know. I guess I think I'd rather just have a second one, but
Mm.
it wouldn't be that hard to change the barrel out, I guess.
Well, I know Colt made the Colt Ace, and that was a conversion. That was way back, like 40s.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that. I've seen one too. That's an upper though, if I remember. It's an upper mag. Okay, so this one though, it says I have an 870 Marine Magnum, the good older one that I just love. The Marine grade guns are so worth it. Even the internal parts on mine are electro nickel plated.
Mm.
Yeah, I imagine near salt water or water in general. Imagine having one of those would be ideal. If I was going to get a shotgun, it would. I could see getting those. If I was going to get another shotgun, I guess I could see getting a stainless Marine.
Well, they look great, and they're designed for that anyway. So I just think they look really cool.
Yeah, we're talking Marine like water, not Marine like
Mm-hmm. actually,
you guys
they have one.
Do you?
What was that, bro?
You don't have chrome shotguns. Your shotguns are black, I'm sure. Or
Yeah, one of them's rattle panned, and the rest of them are black.
Oh no, I mean in the Marines, the USMC. Like if they give somebody a shotgun, it's not a chrome Marine shotgun.
No, I have never seen that. But I would only see it either in a squad car, or
or a boat. Yeah. Like maybe on a boat they have chrome ones, but I don't know. I've never even actually only in movies. I don't think I've ever seen. Do the Marines do all the duties like that? A guard, what is that called? Like running the boat, like they're the police for all the ships.
Yeah, they are, but they also have sailors too, SPs, shore patrol.
Oh, okay. So have you seen? Do they have stainless guns, or are their guns normal? Because they can just get them up. They don't care about stainless, I suppose.
No, they can just get a new gun.
Here's how the Army or the Navy deals with it. They just bring 100 more guns. Like if one gets rusty, you throw it overboard and grab a new one, I suppose.
Pretty much it's just next.
And then somebody has to swab a deck or something, probably.
All right, bro.
Let's see. The next one says, I bolted myself. Wait, with 4 hinge bolts to cement. Oh, they're talking about the safes. One of the first
Oh,
questions was about getting some kind of a small safe, and
mhm.
they asked for a small, discrete safe for a single shotgun, and I recommended the kind. I still have it on the screen here. The kind that you put in the wall, like you cut your drywall and you put it in the wall between 2 studs, and it all screws in, and then you have just a safe wall on your door, or I mean, on the
Mhm.
safe door on your wall.
Well,
Go ahead.
okay, there's a couple of things. One, you can do something like that, small discrete safe. Or you can, I don't know if my boy does it anymore. New Jersey Concealment Furniture sells furniture. So all of a sudden, the table in your den has a shotgun in it, or the headboard has a shotgun in it. You have a way to secure it too. It's not just a push button. You know, he can do it with a key fobs. He can do it mechanically with a button. But if no one knows there's anything there to steal, they're not going to try to break into it. What was the Bruce Willis movie where he played? It was a remake of the Charles Bronson Death Wish. Remember when Bruce Willis remade Death Wish?
Yeah, I refuse to acknowledge it because it's so bad, but I've seen it. Yeah.
But in the movie, that's all of Dan's furniture from New Jersey Concealment Furniture. They
Oh,
bought his
really?
whole entire stock. Yeah,
Well, I'm going to watch it again then.
yeah, they bought his entire stock. And Dan helped me out with university shoots. We actually created the Wheel of Freedom, I call it, with all the logos and everything on it. He created that for us. Oh, excuse me. He gave me a few. He created and put my logo on it and everything, and we raffled it off. So, yeah, real cool guy, great woodworker. He makes this really cool furniture, and it was used in that movie. So if you want to check it out and see how cool it looks, you can see it there. They pretty much bought every. They were like, "What do you have?" And he was like, "Well, I have examples of all of my stuff in the shop, so people can see it. We'll buy it all." He was like, "Okay." So that the table they have that he kicks down, that's in the trailer, that stands pretty cool too, because it will hold 2 full-size shotguns in just what looks like a coffee table. And
Well,
you
like
hit
you
the
say,
switch.
everybody goes, "Oh, well, everybody's going to know it's there." It's like, no, not really. Like most of the time,
No,
people are looking for what they're looking for, not the out.
nobody's gonna know that. It's like, okay, as a locksmith, as this locksmith that was in the civilian world for a long time, the hide key on the magnet that you stick under the car, people like, or well, I think the magnet was a horrible idea, but they had one with some glue on it and then a Velcro pouch. So that allowed it to be stuck anywhere under your car. And people were like, yeah, but people will just fill into your car for it. I'm like, since when have you ever seen anybody just drop down on all fours and feel around the edges of a car?
Yeah, if they know you have it, they might look for it, but they'd have to know
Hmm.
in the first place. Same with those rocks, right? Like put a rock out there
Yeah.
in your front yard. Oh yeah, somebody could just flip over your rock. So when's the last time you see somebody flipping over every rock in the front yard?
Just flipping over every rock outside your door. But so that he has, what do you call those things? Corner nooks. Um, like China cabinet was just regular China cabinet. You open it up, you can put your stuff in it,
Yeah, like
but
what
the
you display
sidewalls
at
pull out.
nights or whatever, and nobody's going to think twice
Hmm.
'cause they're looking at what's displayed on it.
And then all of a sudden, the sidewall pulls out, the panel pulls out, and it's an entire wall for firearms, clocks, all of it. He makes it. Tactical Walls was another company that made stuff like that, but it was pretty much a mass made, what do you call mass produced, less refined version of what Dan does. Dan's a furniture maker, and these people mass produce furniture that can hide a firearm, but it, in my opinion, doesn't look as good.
Well, when you're talking about a safe, you're going to have people that are like, I need to know how big it is. And then you got other people that need to know what its ratings are.
What the ratings are, yeah.
And then you got other people that have other qualifications, like what it's going to look like. And trust me, from selling safes for like 17 years, so for knock
Mm-hmm.
safe, more people give a shit about what it's going to look like. Because unless you're putting it in your
Mm-hmm.
garage or your basement or something, we don't have basements in Arizona, but unless you're putting it out of sight, you care a lot what it's going to look like because it's going to be there and it's going to be the big giant thing in your room. So sometimes the centerpiece of a room. and the price of a good one. A lot of times,
Mhm.
a good chunk of the price of a good one is making the outside look sweet, just like a motorcycle or a car, because it's going to be
Paint
sitting
job.
in a room with like all kinds of cool taxidermy, or like with some other, like all your reloading equipment or something. So like it's going to be something that's in that room that you're going to look at, and people that know what's up and they got the money for it, they're like, yeah, I don't want to buy the cheapest garbage that got welded together by somebody who wasn't paying attention. They want something that looks sweet. So anyway, so you can go that route, or just not pay for all that. That's just, it is all show. So you can definitely save a lot of money by going with the lower end from a higher end company. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going off.
100%. Dude,
But I guess
like
I was
when
that no matter what you do, most of the time you're buying a cabinet, really, because the safes
Mhm.
themselves are jewelry stores, and nobody's buying those. Like most of us are buying cabinets of some sort, and a criminal who really wants it, especially if it's like let's say if it's a $12,000 safe, they want what's in there. They know that you got
Mhm.
enough money to buy a $12,000 safe, and they want it. They're just gonna probably take the whole thing and open it up in their leisure, in their place. So that's where I was saying, if you can hide it in your walls or get rid of it so that it's attached to your house. And that's where I think Aldo was saying bolted it to the
Yeah,
floor and then 6 more to the wall.
exactly.
Super
What
unnecessary, because they will take it if they have any amount of time, or if they have a lack of time. Like if they have enough time, they'll take it. And if they don't have enough time, they'll take it. Like they want to just take it.
lag your safes down? Lagging your safe down. Time. Usually they don't have time. They want to get in and get out quickly. If you have a $12,000 safe, you should also have a home security cameras and system and
Good
cameras.
point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Um, but some of the most beautiful safes I've ever seen, because I sold them too. We sold safes, higher end safes that pretty much had a better paint job than some people's vehicles. And the catalogs were some of the coolest things you could ever see, because it was like you said, laid out like a study with all these safari animal heads in them, and then there's this really expensive safe with all kinds of firearms in it. Because we sold AMSEC, American Security, and Guard all products,
Well,
but
and
they
they
had
get
the
like coin collectors and people that just have photographs or stuff. Like I'm sure
Mhm.
electronics people with shoe collections at this point, like they're all buying them and they want them to look cool because they put all their expensive ass shit in there.
Yeah, and you'll have it's part of the display. It's a part of the look of prestige, or you can get one that just freaking battleship gray, and it holds your guns, and you smack stickers on it, and it's in the corner, and you save yourself pretty much about a quarter of the price,
But
but you
I
still
always
have
love
the same.
the good
What was
brands
that?
let you buy like the quality of the expensive ones without any paint job hardly at all. Like enough that they're not going to be embarrassed to putting it in your house, but
Yep.
almost no effort done to it. And you got all the expensive upgrades on the inside and the materials. That I thought was pretty cool. And the big companies, the U.S. companies, do that.
Yeah, so you can have the dehumidifier, you can have the lights, you can have all of that, but it's a plain safe on the outside with all the security as the more expensive ones. They just don't have the um, gold plating on the dial. It's not, shiny. Doesn't have what do you call it? Multiple layers of paint plus clear coat.
Yeah, like
We had
Bond,
one of the.
perfect. They'll Bondo them and make them perfect when you get
Oh
them.
my God, will they look great? Delivered lots of them. Lots of them. That's a young man's game.
Actually, well, that's all another story. But all right, I'm eating peanuts, so let me quit chewing on peanuts. The next one was also from Aldo. UTG is I'm guessing is a lower end manufacturer, but some of their stuff is good. I've used their mags. I've not used their mags. I usually use Midway stainless steel mags. Um, is that like a GI mag? So, what's your AR preference, mag preference?
Hold on, yeah, I was trying to unmute. Um, free. I
Everything
have
enough?
I have I have hex mags that the company sent me years ago, and then when we switched over from 15 to 10, I got some from Second Amend, and they sent some 10 rounders, and I was able to get more of the hex mag 10 rounders. So that's what I have, and they run. They just run. Now, the whole time, all the tactical Timmies told me that hex mags didn't work, and I'm like, who are telling you this? Oh, they fall apart in classes. I'm like, I'm running classes. I'm doing what do you call that? Minuteman challenges at the time, and we're dropping them on concrete, and they work. I've taken multiple classes with them, and they worked. Took a Costa class 3 days. It worked. So sometimes it's best to try it out and not listen to everything the internet says. At least buy one, especially when it comes to mags. If you found a deal on them, buy a couple. So I don't have anything tried or true. I see it, especially if it doesn't cost a lot of money, I'll try it out. I don't even think I own a PMag AR mag.
Really? So I was gonna say, I think pretty much all of mine are PMags for the most part. I had some metal mags from back in the day, but I had I don't want to say pleasure because it was annoying, but I had the to deal with growing up with all the garbage of the 90s, and the magazines were horrible back in the olden days. I don't know what happened when I wasn't paying enough attention, but somewhere in the middle of the 2000s, magazines stopped being a random thing as much as they used to be. But
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't no random. There was just, you got magazines that were kind of okay and then magazines that were horrible. There was no such thing as a good magazine because we all knew that magazines were disposable. I guess whenever they started making them cost $50, they were like, well, people demand more out of a $50 magazine than they did out of a $5 magazine. So companies that were making their own proprietary stuff, probably trying to keep up with the Glocks, now that I'm thinking about it out loud, they were probably like, oh man, we got to make something even close to what the Glock was doing with their metal enclosed polymer wrap thing. But anyhow, so I'm familiar with the old mags that were just not. There was no good mags back in the day. The best thing you could do was a GI mag, and you had to suffer with whatever they were, 20 rounds or something dumb. You could get a 30 round military style mag, but they cost a lot for whatever reason. They were probably the best ones, and fewer of them or whatever, so they would cost money. You could get 20 round GI mags fairly cheap because they were around since the olden days. But pretty much everything polymer was some kind of random garbage. I mean, it would work at the range. It would work if you were tender with it, but I don't expect to be tender with anything in training or at any point with an AR. It better be able to handle I want to give it to a Marine, and they better be able to still work at the end of that. And they can for the most part, right? My AR mags are pretty good. But, as soon as mag pulls came out, I did a bunch of testing because I just happened to be doing that kind of stuff on YouTube at the time. So I got as much abuse as I could figure out how to give them, and I ran them through a million different kind of classes and watched other people just do the same. So I was done. And then what would happen is, I forget even how it all went down, but there would be the Magpul PMag, and then there was Gen 2, and it had something to do with Europe because of stupid Europe guns and blah, blah, blah. So they adjusted something and made it work with stupid Europe or something like that was the Gen 2. And then all of a sudden there was a bunch of people like, I got to have the best one, the newest, whatever. And boom, all of a sudden you could get Gen 1s because nobody wanted them. So my mags are still essentially not Y2K, but that kind of thing. Like I just have let's say I have a few mags that are still in plastic that, have never even been taken out of the plastic yet. So I've never even needed that many. I only have one AR. So, I have more than I'll ever need, but so I just quit buying them, I guess is my thing. The Magpul PMags were fine for me, and I kind of stopped there. So if there's anything better at this point, I haven't needed it, so I haven't purchased it.
Oh yeah, and I had one more. Mission First Tactical. Mission First Tactical gave me some magazines and stocks and pistol grips and stuff for raffle, but also for an industry build I did. And
right?
The minimalist stock is really good. The pistol grip's a pistol grip, and the mag, I think it was mags. I never had a bad mag. Out of everything I had, and I agree with you. When Magpul and Mr. Fitzgerald United States Marine, by the way, actually started Magpul. When he started producing mags, it was a market disruptor. He changed the way things were. He changed what was expected out of a magazine. And yeah,
like add on fiberglass or something to the mix or something. Like his were actually decent. You couldn't crush them. They were what you'd want out of plastic and what people expect now out of plastic.
Yep. So he raised that bar, and then you're right. Something, I forgot what it was. Something happened that they didn't work in something and they needed to, so they changed it out.
There was something about a metric gun in Europe or something, and it was like we can fit in all these AR platforms except for this one, and then they had to make the AR-M or the PMAG M or something, and then they were like, screw it, let's just change something, and it would work with everything or something. They quit using that gun. I don't know what happened, but it was something with a Europe gun.
Yeah, so that was that, and then other companies started making it, which was awesome because it opened up, to other companies that made decent stuff. And there's one company that I just won't use their stuff because I'm sorry. Yes, I did have a magazine that was garbage and fell apart on me, but it's one of the ones that everyone knew kind of sucked, and it is what it is. But again, same thing. Magazine fails, you learn to work around it. All right, cool. That thing stopped feeding, it double fed, all the rounds came out. Strip it, throw it on the ground, clear it, get the gun back up. I mean, we were in at a different time. No, we were in at the same time. We were in the military at the same time. In the Marine Corps, they ran us ragged with doing those drills, inducing malfunctions, clearing malfunctions. Let's get it.
In those days, you didn't pick up a fucking magazine. You didn't pick up a magazine and reload it unless you were going to die. Like, okay, you can pick up a magazine and reload it, but you carried more magazines, or you went and got more. You got more magazines. You weren't reloading.
But in training, they made us use the same magazines over and over again, so it could induce malfunctions.
No, I hear you there, but I mean, but the third theory was that like you're going to run out of mags, and somebody's going to be bringing you bandoliers of mags. You're not going to be ever like loading mags like in the AKs. They would bring them out ammo. Like we were always getting mags.
Yeah,
or at least that's what we trained for. Like we did obviously pick up magazines and reload them all the time, but we weren't going to ever go into combat with like some kind of combat thumb or something where we'd learn how to load magazines good. Like that wasn't. Like we weren't going to sharpen a bayonet either. It was going to come to us sharp. It was just
there was some things that were. Yeah. But the cool thing, and that's also understand the Marine Corps, very small budget. So yeah, they used it, they beat it up, and you learn to run that gun. You learn how to handle malfunctions. You learn how to strip it, get it out of your gun, get the gun back up on and firing so fast. And you did it so many times that there's a 20-year gap between me touching a M16A2 and me running an AR. And it was like riding a bicycle. And that's ridiculous because I didn't think it was that drilled into us. I mean, I'm also a gun guy, but I didn't touch anything, My firearms at that time were like a Mosin and an Enfield. I'm using stripper clips. There's nothing between those two. Oh, thanks, Aldo. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate the sub. But I really, he just subbed to me. That's pretty cool. But yeah, just another gun geek, dude.
So I was going to say the nice thing about having a bad mag, I'll keep my bad mags around because I can use them for YouTube videos or something or whatever. But sometimes for fixing a gun or something, you can jam that into a vise, jam something into it, stick something in it like a wedge or something, then put it in a vise, and then you got an improv block. But also, if you're gonna, like what Tony was saying, if you're gonna be dropping them onto concrete or something, then you don't need to ruin your good mags. Like you can bring garbage mags that are going to take abuse because they're already broke, put some duct tape on them or whatever, and then let them hit the concrete over and over and over, especially if you're just going to be doing induced malfunctions or clearings or something else, right? Some kind of manipulations or transitions or something where it doesn't really matter what mag is in there. It's worth having those around.
Have your good stuff separated. You do not want that piece of concrete that popped up jamming your spring on the first round of your defensive use. You know, you
Yeah.
fire what's in the chamber and then you got nothing, or it refuses the chamber because you're not. I don't know most people. I know I don't keep one chambered in an AR for home defense, and all of a sudden it won't feed the first round.
Yeah, ARs are
Don't do
dumb
that.
because of the manual of arms. So if you put one in there into the chamber, then you can drop the bolt and put it on safe. But if
Mm-hmm.
you leave it empty and drop the bolt, you can't put it on safe. So I have known people, not tactically, but because they like to put a gun on safe, who will load an AR and then put it on safe because they figure that is quicker than racking an AR. And it's anytime people will go, oh no, blah blah blah, they'll say you shouldn't carry one without one in the pipe. So if it's going to be sitting there, and let's say on a somewhere like on the wall or in a car or whatever, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be resting. If it's going to be sitting there and nobody's going to be fiddling with it, who really cares if there's one in the pipe or not? But I know what you're
Yeah.
saying. But that's the only exception, is because the AR's manual of arms or whatever, you can't drop a bolt and put it on safe because you'd have to pull the trigger. Well, I guess you could pull the trigger, but anyhow, that's the.
Yeah. I don't make a big deal about that. I think that some of that minutia people want to get into just to have internet arguments or try to. I'm like, stop. I'm glad you have an AR for home defense, and I'm glad you practice with it, or I hope you practice with it, train with it, and did everything else. I don't care how you carry it. Now, your carry gun, that's a different story. You know, I tell you, it's best to have one in the chamber in your carry gun, but your home defense long arm, maybe not so much, because a lot of stuff like shotguns aren't drop safe.
Yeah, it totally depends on what it is too, and where you're going to be
Hmm.
sticking. What if it's leaning in the corner of a something versus, like we were just talking about having it in a safe locked in the wall. It's totally different. Or in
Totally
some
different.
sort of coffee table that's got whatever, some kind of a spring into action type of drawer or flip up. Like in that kind of situation, you probably expect to need it, whatever. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I mean, exactly. But the funny thing is, because again, I'm not going to argue with you over something because I'm married. I'm used to not being right. So I'm not going to try to beat you down and get a win on you. Um,
Well, because there's no right or wrong half the time anyway, right? When we're talking this kind of
yeah.
stuff, there's like what's right most of the time, but what if you're out camping? Or there's like what's right most
Hmm.
of the time, but what if you're in a hotel room, right? So what are you going to bring your whatever to the hotel room, or are you going to do something different in a hotel, right? So
Yeah. And and it's like, okay, I have it leaning against the wall. Okay, what if it gets knocked over? Well, what's going to happen? Man, we had a friggin' earthquake in Jersey, bro. And stuff fell over. And that was something I didn't expect. It was crazy too,
a
because I
lot of
was at work.
it'll feel like an earthquake, but really it's just someone shooting one 45 ACP round off.
Nice, nice. I was shooting. I think I put 100 rounds downrange at 45 ACP between the CZ 97 and that 1911. Oh, and I shot a CZ 19. I mean, excuse me, a Colt 1911 from 1942 last night. GI, and
Hmm.
I hated it as much as I hated my GI 1911 that I had. I carried mine for 2 years, and I just did not like. I mean, it ate my hand up, dude. It ate the web of my hand up.
Back in our day, the 1911 was World War II.
Hmm.
Well, what am I saying? World War One, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and you're a
Hmm.
Marine, so your gun had seen all of those. It probably got remanufactured
Hmm.
somewhere, but your gun's seen all that. Everyone I'd ever seen might have seen all that shit, or it was sitting in a box until yesterday,
Hmm.
because the Army had stuff from the olden days and the new stuff. It's all mixed, but whatever it was like a Jeep, and we had the Humvee on the horizon. Like we knew
Yeah.
Humvees existed. They weren't everywhere, but there'd be like one on a fort or something. Like, oh,
Hmm.
I seen a Humvee, that kind of shit. And that's what the Berettas were like. And I never really loved Berettas, but that
Hmm.
would probably when I was 18, I would have probably been more interested in seeing the one Beretta that was on the making its way around versus whatever 1911, because the 1911 wouldn't have been anything other than our ARs. The only thing it makes it different than every other one is whatever they put on with nail polish on the side that says like 12 or 11 or 13 or whatever.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Whew. So no, I mean my personal 1911. I had a GI 1911 also. I actually purchased one, but the Marine Corps, yeah, the Marine Corps the last Marine Corps 1911 was built in 45 or 46. So when people talk about Marine Corps Special Operations, what we call MUSOC, back in the day had them, and it was like they were all rebuilt in Quantico by hand up until Kimber. Got the contract to make some of them back in the early 90s, like 91, I think. And I'm just going by memory, and I'm an old man, so I might have forgotten the exact date. So no one needs to push your glasses up and go, actually. It's like, I'm cool with being wrong, dude. You're right, I'm wrong.
Don't come at me.
Yeah, don't come at me, bro. Yeah, dude. But it's a really romanticized gun because again, mine last shot it back in like 92, 94. Sights are horrible compared to anything modern. And when I was shooting it, right next to the Springfield Armory EMPs, because I had two of those out last night, next to the Smith & Wesson 1911, sights are horrific comparatively. You had World War One little bump sights, the slide bite was real. Hammer bite was real, excuse me. Both of them actually with me because my hands are so big. And it's a romanticized firearm.
Yeah,
everything today, 1911.
It's like
what was that?
It's like driving an old Jeep or something, right? Like, oh, that looks cool, but then you get in there and there's no seals anywhere. You're always cold. You're always hot. You're always wet. Like there's nothing.
Yep.
You kind of got a little bit of shade and a little bit of a windshield, but yeah, it's bumpy as shit driving around. Might as well be in a go-kart.
Yeah, everything new is better. It's cool. You can romanticize, you can buy them, but I'm looking at stuff like, I would never buy a modern, a newly produced GI 1911 if I had a choice. I'm like, no, I want one with some good sights. I want one with some, 25 lines per inch stippling on both the front and the back strap. I want one with a beaver tip and maybe even a hump in the grip safety to make it more positive when I grab it. If I grab it in a sucky way and I don't have a great master grip, like I want all that. And if I can get one with a trigger job, even more better.
Oh, it's a tangent. I'm not going to go on it, but as you're going there, all the new guns are essentially what people wanted from their 1911s and maybe their Smith & Wessons back in the day. It's just that the problem is there people that are shooting them today don't realize that they're shooting, this except better or that except better. They just know they're shooting this gun and it works. They don't know the pain, I guess, of having lived through like, I like this gun, but the trigger sucks. Or man, this is the cool gun looks cool, but it doesn't cycle or something. And then
they don't know the struggle.
Actually, exactly right. This new gun is just what you always wanted, except it works, or it's what I always wanted, except I can afford it, or it's what I always wanted, but it's anyway. So that's
it's great. I'm happy to be alive during what I consider the golden age of firearms. At this point, we're way from manufacturing to cost to the number of options your basic firearm has to the dependability and reliability of the cheapest polymer striker fired pistol has a record better than most combat handguns of back in the day. I think it was 6,000 rounds. I think it was 6,000 rounds was the test for the original 1911 and 1910. Almost everything today, modern that you call a duty gun, can blow through 6,000 rounds standing on its head.
It's hard to dispute that because even the worst like the people putting the least amount of effort into it can stand on the shoulders of people that have mastered it. So even unless they have to royally screw it up to ruin it today, like, you know, you start from such a plateau that unless you just completely drop off that plateau with quality or materials or something, you're going to make an amazing gun today compared to what anybody could have made back in the day.
Yeah, it's like screwing up, making a wheel. Okay, so everybody's made a wheel since well before the Roman times, and you just figure you're going to make a square one, huh? 2024, you're going to make a square wheel. All right, yeah.
But that being said, have you seen the square wheels for like skateboards? They do make a square, like it's something about like the, it turns into where the points do, it does work. Like it works. Anyway, there is such a thing as a square wheel. But
that's funny.
I've seen it on like the kind of skateboard where you drive it on the grass and stuff. So I don't know if it needs to be driven on the grass or not, but anyway.
That's funny, bro. Yeah, I'm checking out what Aldo says about 1911 now. If you read it, they talk about all the options, and it's funny because these would have been, I mean, it still can be a custom build you get like this. But much of that is on the basic duty grade kind of, 1911 from, let me read it. Let me go by this. Yeah. Like a lot of that stuff you'd get almost from Rock Island. If they're hiring in all bells and whistles, 1911. Like some of this stuff would have had to been sent to, and depend on the year. Wilson Combat, Clark Custom, Wilson Combat. Who were the guys back in the day? Les Bear.
For what, 1911s?
For 1911 work to have like a magwell put on, to have a tungsten guide rod or a full-length guide rod, to have all that checkering, to have, they didn't have titanium high sights, but they had higher sights back then than the GI sights. All of that stuff would have had to go out and be gone. Like you'd have to buy a Colt Gold Cup and then send that Gold Cup to a shop. And pretty much 6 months to a year later, or even longer, you get the Gold Cup back with the options you asked for. And you still have to go through like 500 round break-in period.
Exactly. You get this awesome new custom thing exactly how you want. And then they're like, and now go run it through hundreds of rounds before you actually do it.
Oh, and by the way, the only 3 rounds that they work with really well are these.
It's kind of true. And it was because, you'd be like, let me start with this car and let me mod it out to this tricked out, nowadays you can just go buy it in that configuration.
Yeah.
Or it was somebody had to hack it up. So I thought it'd be interesting to try a poll from something we talked about before. What's the best era to live in? So pre-1900, which would have been pretty much revolvers and back. So everything before, let's say, ammunition. So, right, like all the pre-ammunition days when everything was muzzleloader or before. Or from 1900s up until the 1960s. So the era where you could just, there wasn't as many guns, but you could pretty much buy whatever you wanted because up until 34. And then I
love the year breakdown, bro. Nice.
80s to today-ish, so that you get, everything we're familiar with. But then I also put into the future. So just in case somebody isn't satisfied. But because I've often thought, like, how cool would it be to live back pre-34 where, you could just walk into a drugstore and buy a Thompson for $5.
I did mine. I voted mine. Ha ha.
We know it is because it's 100% future at this point.
Well, understand, because again, this is part joking, so nobody take it seriously. But I am a black man, if you haven't noticed. And no, there ain't many movies about black people going back in the past, because the future's where we're at right now, man. If I had a time machine, I'm not passing 1990. I'm just letting you know that right now.
No shit, 1900s. Look at that. Yeah, what would be your situation pre-1900s, and then seriously, 1900 to 60s. I mean, it'd be interesting to live then, but it wouldn't be. I don't think right. Not many people are taking that ride. In 1980, we already lived in this one, so yeah.
Yeah. So, but really, and the reason I picked 2020, I mean, the future. is because the guns don't fall apart. I could shoot guns from all of those eras and have fired guns in all those eras, and I can own guns from all those eras. And only the good ones are usually around. I mean, people act as if somehow the only guns that were around, in the pre 1900s were like Colt, Smith, and Winchester. And I'm like, no, they were cheap versions of that. There was a high point version of whatever was there too. There were inexpensive European guns that kind of sucked too. The guns that were from major manufacturers still went for major manufacturer prices. So, yeah, it was great. You could buy a Colt 1873 single action in 4470 for $20. But $20 was like 3 months' pay. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'd rather live now and be able to shoot either the originals from back then or a really well-made replica like stuff from Taylor and Company that can fire modern ammunition if I want, and I can have trigger jobs done and go to a cowboy action shoot and wear a whole repertoire of pre 1900. They even have the what do you call it, wild bunch shoots. I don't know if you know about those. In cowboy action shooting, they have like a outlaw group called the damn, I just said it. The movie Wild Bunch, and it's a combo of like World War One ish. There's a year cutoff, but you can have like World War One era 1911s.
Yeah, as I say, they had like some German gun in the 1911s were technically cowboy guns.
Yeah. Yeah, they were actually cowboy guns, Old West. So you can squeeze that into that. And it's awesome because the replicas are good. The ammo is much better and more dependable than it was back then. I'd like now. And because guns are so durable, I can shoot the original. So that's why I pick where I pick.
Yeah, honestly, there's really, except for, I could have said, what era guns do you like best? But living in would have pretty much sucked. I do think it would be interesting to live in a time before there was a shit ton of federal control over shit.
Mm-hmm.
That also does come with an element of risk, really, because unless you were survival of the fittest, essentially, right? Like, we'd probably be all right. We're kind of big. But, everybody would have had a totally different life experience back in the days before all those laws and stuff. I just think it'd be neat to have experienced a time when no one even thought about national laws telling everybody what to do and stuff. We had some times of sprawl or whatever in the country, but there's never been a time of sprawl where it's been great for everybody, because either somebody's getting pushed away or wailed on or abused during it. So yeah, there's all that.
Again, when it comes to nostalgia, also badly taught history, also some unknown stuff that's been forgotten in history. So, hey, dude, it's always romantic. It's always fun to think about, man, what happens if,
Have you seen, well, if you haven't been watching, I'm guessing you haven't been watching the Bass Reeves show that just ended? I think it's on Apple.
I mean, I know about Bass Reeves. I read about Bass Reeves. How realistic was, because Isaiah Washington didn't play him. That was another movie.
I don't think I've seen the guy before. I don't think I've seen any of the actors. Well, there might have been like one of the old people before, but I think it was super romanticized. Like, there's no way it was fancy or whatever, like simple. Like, I'm guessing it's a little more hardship than they had in the show, but it was supposed to be, for a family show and something to compare to the other westerns and stuff. But it was
Bass Reeves was a stand-up dude.
Yeah, he's super cool. He's sort of like the Long Ranger, except he's him instead of the Ranger version.
Actually, they kind of say they stole it from him because he had an Indian partner too, right? And he's spoke.
No, I'm saying it's like watching the Long Ranger show, except instead of being the guy, because he's doing Long Ranger kind of stuff. He's doing it's not like an episodic old 50s show. It's like a modern day show, but he's essentially like watching any show today, except that it's watching him do Long Ranger stuff, like go solve a problem.
Oh, okay. The crazy part, right?
episodes, so it went kind of fast. I suspect it would have been better if it was like 18 episodes and they wouldn't have had to like rush so many things, but they had to like rush his family life and his history and all this kind of stuff. But otherwise, it was pretty decent and it was super well made. It really
did they show him? Did they show him going after his son when he had to arrest his own son?
I heard about that, but no, his son only gets to be like 13, maybe. I don't know how old kids are, 10 or something. His kid's like a kid still in the movie or in the show. It's 8 episodes of a show, but I'm almost positive they're going to continue it. So they wanted to leave. Like, he only does like 2 adventures. I mean, it's not like his whole life and times or anything. It's him essentially getting set up as a marshal and then I don't want to spoil it for people, but going on like 2 or 3 adventures. It's sort of like The Long Ranger. Like each show is a little self-contained thing, but then there's in the 8 episodes, there's the overarching bigger story, which is kind of cool. So I'm guessing that's what they're going to do each season, is have like a big story that arches over all of them and then little adventures that take you there.
That's good though. I mean, people need to learn about, some of the greats, because he is a legendary lawman that a lot of people, unless you were really into it, didn't know. Never heard of,
Well,
but it is crazy.
His fake version of the Long Ranger, or they knew all of his stories through the Long Ranger.
Yeah, exactly. Because dude retired. What is it? Wow. 68 years old. He started with the Muskogee Police Department in Oklahoma and served for 2 years in 1907. Like, you think about it as being forever ago, but it was like, bro, as I forgot who it was. Joe Rogan. He was like, that's 2 grandmothers ago. Yeah, so the past ain't really as far. America's very, very young.
We are, and we get wailed on by older cultures. That's all another topic. Woods is saying looking for a Charter Arms revolver and 45 ACP. They got that cylinder that holds rimless. So this is new, or is this something?
I think it's before, because I know.
So then they just make headspace off of like a chamfer or like a rim inside of the chamber. So like a 45 ACP will fit in there, and then the lead will fit down a smaller tube and to be the barrel, right? It's to have something to remove the rounds, so that's where it gets tricky. So with a rimmed, they can just put the star or whatever underneath the rims, and you push out that star and the cases are going to come right out. So with a rimless, how does it extract? Like, since it's going to headspace off of the chamber, fine, but then when you go to remove them, typically you got some kind of a hook, or what's the extractor all about? Some kind of a springy? Is that an issue?
I can't remember. All right, we had.
So that would be my thoughts, though, is that how to just make sure it extracts, because essentially with a 45 ACP, you've got some pressure, so it pops out, it expands those cases into the chamber. They don't want to come out anymore; they want to stay there.
Hold on, I'm thinking, because I think we shot one. It was a snubby. Had like a 2 Charter Arms. I think it was a snub. What we had was a fun day. We had a fun range day, and and we broke out all the guns, and we had the target at 200 yards. We had a 14-inch steel target at 200 yards. And me and my partner Sean started it off, and I fired the infield at 200, standing. First shot, ring it. Then I told everybody, hey, let's shoot our guns. And no one decided to shoot anything closer to 200 yards. And we had pistols. We had brand new at the time, just came out, Glock 45. And somebody bought a Charter Arms, and I think it was a snub nose 45. And I'm trying to think of how it, you know what I mean? How it Extract it. Charter Arms 45 ACP. Okay, cool. It was fun, but at 200 yards with a snubby barrel, pretty much, it looked like you were shooting down satellites. I mean, you had to aim above the target significantly.
Doesn't show the extractor in that site, but you're not shooting 200 yards though normally with a revolver.
Yeah. No. We were just having fun with it, and we were showing. Yeah, it was called Pitbull, and we were showing the same principle because we not only taught classes, and some of the guys have been students of ours, but they shot, and there was a lot of the guys that were already in and participated in our Minuteman Challenge competitions. And we were just showing them the same principles that apply at 15 yards, apply at 200. Sight alignment, sight picture, trigger squeeze, follow through. Same. All right, I'm checking out a video from guns.com, and I'm trying. Okay. Yeah, they have an extractor with little wings on it that fit right into the groove and push them out.
No, I mean, if it's working and there's not it's not the joke or the brunt of Charter Arms' existence, then it probably works. This is a millimeter. This is essentially the same. It's a 9mm.
Yeah. See, if you look between them, there's a little small wings in there, right on the star itself. See those little between? Yeah, those. I think those catch right on the rimmed, or not rimmed, but recessed right in the space right there.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how they eject.
Now, how strong are those springs going to be, and how long is it going to last and stuff? Charter Arms usually makes things that are strong. I've never heard for Charter Arms breaking. People don't like Charter Arms because they're not like super fancy, but they're usually bust, right? Like
I've only known that was the only time I shot a Charter Arms. I ran it. I didn't have any problem with it. But you're learning. We were shooting a lot of different firearms, so I'm not going to go, hey, I was great with that. But I did hit 2 out of 3. I think 2 out of 3. I mean, 2 out of 5, because I think they had a 5-round cylinder, if I remember correctly. I think it was a 5-shot. Yep, 5-shot. So either I hit 2 or 3 at 200 yards with it. Fun gun.
What is the rifle from Assault on Precinct 13 remake that looks similar to an H&K G3? I'm sure I've seen it once, but not recently. So
I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Assault on Precinct 13. Have you seen either one? There's like a movie from like the 60s or 70s, maybe.
76.
Okay. And then that one's okay. And then they made a new one, and it's okay. They're not really the same movie from what I remember. Like, they're quite different. But I'm trying to remember the movie. So it would have been something where they're trying to make us think that the New York police would be using it. I can't get the thing to copy it and paste it over here, so I'll have to take it.
Oh my God. Boy, that was an ugly movie poster from back in the day.
Was it a horror movie, I think, at first?
They called it let me see, action thriller film written, directed, scored, and edited by John Carpenter. So that's why it's in your head as a horror movie.
Okay. And rifle, I guess. That IMDb place will have the rifle that was used in it.
Oh yeah, IMDb.
Yeah.
IMDb.
We want the one from 2005.
Mm-hmm. Good golly,
It's pretty good resource, this thing.
I enjoy it.
Is it this thing you're talking about? The SIG 552?
I used to be on a podcast as a guest often called Guns of Hollywood, and that was a fun show to be on.
Just talking about movie guns and stuff?
Yep. We talk about they come up with a movie and we talk about the movie guns in the movies. And if you shot them, and just it was just a fun thing. It's still on the Firearms Radio Network. I don't think they brought it back out yet. A lot of fun. Oh, you said it was in a remake. All right, I'm watching the trailer from the old one.
So if this is what he's talking about, it's a Sig
Oh,
552.
yep, that's a Sig 552. Another one of those guns that I thought were really cool.
Yeah, it's 556, and it looks like it's some kind of sheet metal gun. It's made by
Hmm.
Sig, so I'm sure it works. But for me, it's not AR mags, and it's in 556. If I'm going to carry
And
around a rifle, I'd rather carry around a
they're,
308. I don't know, I guess.
they're see-through mags. The mags themselves, I think they interlock. You can actually have them old school, like when you use the tape mags together with both of them sticking up. These
Yeah.
interlock. They're clear, smoky, so you can see how many rounds is in it. And Stig remade them in America, but they weren't as good,
It
supposedly.
looks like
E-
maybe something about, is it just the grip? Something about it screams foul, but maybe it's just the grip.
I think it's European, but yeah, it's definitely the grip. Ian has done videos on them, especially the short barreled one. They look really cool. I think even maybe even Coleon Noir talked about them before. It's a cool gun. It's one of the guns that were in the magazines that we were talking about. Those end of the year mags from that, because they used to have the 7.5 Swiss uh, rifles in there too. And this was one of the ones I thought was really cool. And I think I saw him in Soldier Fortune magazine. What was the guy's name with the Greek last name that used to be their technical guy?
I don't remember them by name, I don't think. At least back in the
Yeah.
day. Oh, wait, Kokalas?
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
I
Just say there's only one
don't
name
remember.
I know. Yeah, okay.
Yep. No, I just love it. Yeah, I don't remember Cocalis. Yep, that's it.
So my thing would probably have been back then and still today, just, if it, whatever you'd happen, even if you had a group of 12 people and they're all carrying this thing, as soon as one
Mm-hmm.
goes down, then what are
You're
you going
done.
to do? You got to pick up something from the area that you're in, and now you're different. So I'd rather I'd rather go with whatever's common in the place I'm going, and this isn't. So I don't
What
know
year
if,
are we talking? I mean, if we're going to pretend it's 75,
well, that's what I was going to say. Unless
uh,
you're talking about like in Sweden, maybe, like if this is
mm-hmm.
wherever this is this from Sweden or Switzerland or one of those Europe countries? Uh, probably there. Like, okay, maybe I'd have a different, but 10 years later, it's going to be an AR-15. Like, nobody kept these guns after a bit of time, and maybe they've gone back to them. But or is this isn't an old one? This is a gun from 2008.
Oh, yeah, again, damn, I keep saying the remake. Yeah, they just did that. Look, bro, if it was back in the day during the very first one in America in the 70s, I'd either take an M1 carbine or a Mini 14. I think they were new then.
I would have taken an AR still, just a little carbine AR back then. But
Well, but very few
no
people,
matter what, nobody would have had nothing. There was nothing common back then. Like you
yeah,
say, a carbine, an M1 carbine is probably more common than anything.
probably the most common because that was in National Guard armories all over the place,
And
and they
we
were
gave the
sold in the
whole
civilian
country.
market.
We gave the whole
Yeah,
country, right?
yeah. So we had plenty of those here. Hell, they even made them in Jersey. So yeah, that's what I would go with. I mean, truthfully, because I think a lot of people have gotten into guns in the last decade. Some of us old, some people that consider themselves have been in it for a while, maybe came in around 2000. I've been the gun geek since late 70s. These rifles and squad cars weren't even common. And a lot of times PDs either had military surplus M1 carbines, or they had lever actions or pump action rifles. You know what I mean? It was not. Or they had that Winchester Model 70 that was like the sniper's rifle, and they didn't even have a sniper team. They just had the guy that hunted with the damn thing or was the best shot, unless you got into a bigger city. Remember, SWAT didn't even form until the early to mid 70s. And a lot of these
And
things
that was
didn't
like
happen.
in the giant cities. That wasn't at like all police or
Yeah,
anything. It took them a while to
no,
justify it, and then others. Well, until there was
Dar-
drugs and crime and stuff,
Daryl,
it wasn't a
yeah,
need.
Daryl Gates, if you remember him from what LA riot time, started the SWAT team in the 70s, bro, and that was in LA, and then it went to New York, and then it got disseminated from there to again larger cities. So we're talking damn near the 90s before there were SWAT teams on a county level and ride-alongs. I was reading somebody's thing, and they were talking, because again, I've been in this for a while. So when you're talking about firearms instructors, we're talking about firearms instructors. We're doing it like Clint Smith and Thunder Ranch, and some of those guys that were doing the early things, Masada Ayub. And one of the guys were talking about having police carbine training in the mid 90s, and they were using lever actions. Like the department was issued 30-30s. And he was training people to run 30-30s as a police carbine in the 90s.
Yeah, because that's what they still had, and nobody ever needed anything more than that. That's just what they had.
Yeah, that's what they had. That's what they ran, and the police departments went militarized because a lot of the stuff the PDs have come from the military surplus, and everybody thinks military surplus is old stuff. No, the military buys a lot of stuff and then ends up surplusing it out. Sometimes, I believe, on purpose to PDs. Modern stuff. I mean, how many MRADs were out there 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when they
That's
were
one
still
thing.
frontline service?
When you bring that up, I can remember when the towns around me were first getting M16s in the trunk, and there was a big
Mm-hmm.
deal about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool!" Back then, I really wanted to be a cop, and I was like, "I'm going to get an M16. This is going to be amazing."
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember. This would have been the mid '80s, I guess. I'm trying to remember what the heck would have instigated that. Why would the cops have decided it's time to get M16s in the trunk? There must have been something that happened, and
Drugs.
reacting to it. I guess.
Drugs.
I guess. But I mean,
Drugs, and then a couple of the McDonald's shooting out in California, the mass shooting.
yeah, but
It,
that was
it, it,
two, I think. But I don't know. But there was something, yeah. And I don't remember when this was either. I remember I was a kid.
yeah, okay, I'll tell you. It's the same usual suspects. Government failure at something resulted in the government created a problem and then came up with a solution to the problem that included arming themselves well and taking more of our rights.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Welcome to the cycle, baby. Hey, where did the chat go? Okay, cool.
I had something I was just about to bring up, and then I totally lost it because I'm juggling. We're at 2 hours. I don't want to keep going all afternoon here,
All
but
right.
so I'll cut those tangents because those are interesting ones, and we could do a whole show on those kind of talks, or those kind of directions at least. Because again, the implication is that they need it to react to something, and if it's the
Mm-hmm.
war on drugs, or if it's the application of drugs, or I should say it's not drugs, it's gangs who are looking for drug territory probably, so there's enough money in
Mm-hmm.
it, blah blah blah. So I'm thinking at the same time of, again, trying not to go on tangents, but I'm going on a tangent, I guess, thinking of some really interesting law enforcement stuff I've seen over the years that talks about, for example, and you probably have to deal with this from your angle also, but in other words, from seeing different types of prisoners and stuff. But when,
Mm-hmm.
for example, when they needed to make methamphetamines in a shed in the middle of nowhere, out here in Arizona and other places out west, we would find, the rogue, like what they see in the TV movies and stuff for a while there, the mobile home or the little shanty or
Mm-hmm.
shack or a little hole in the ground where they make like a little meth lab. Well, then they
Yeah.
figured out how to make meth with 2-liter bottles, and they can just walk into a store and make it while they're walking around the store and walk out with meth. It's like they
Oh,
don't need meth labs anymore. So the evolution, and then the whole thing, like there was crack and there was meth and there was speed, I guess, and I forget how it all went down. But essentially, like the truck drivers were using the speed for a while, but then they went to meth and they didn't need speed anymore. And the people that were providing speed, dried up, and then different drug chains brought in the different drugs. So I've seen some different like kind of timeline reports that like talked about like none of this stuff is static. Like these things are in flux all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
these things that we see reactions, maybe we started this whole thing with the police putting M16s in the trunk. Some of that's probably like you're saying when you said drugs, you're probably thinking of like Miami and the hype about, because this was the 80s. This was like Miami Vice.
Mm-hmm.
How much of this was reality and how much of this was they're watching Miami Vice and they're convinced that cocaine is coming up in these trucks,
Mm-hmm.
it's by the plane load and it's being driven up here and along with the Mac 10s and stuff. How much of that was induced hype? And hey, the best thing we can do is arm the police to prepare for this. And like you say, like, okay, the police can now buy a M16 off of the Guard, the National
Mm-hmm.
Guard or the State Guard, and they get to transfer $6,000. Everybody's happy. They spent taxpayer money. The other department can go buy something new. Like everybody's happy. But what happened there? They just kind of instilled more fear, or they like created more resistance to a perceived threat.
Well, I'll go ahead and of course this is my opinion. And this is from knowing the people that were in the acquisition department that are gun guys. They got an excuse. You had the Miami shootout. You had the North Hollywood bank robbery.
Yeah, that was a big
You
one.
had, yep. You had one of the earliest, the McDonald's mass shooting in California. Can't think of it. Can't think of the
That
name.
guy killed a bunch
Stockton.
of kids. Yeah, he killed a bunch of
Stockton. Yeah, yeah. So all of those things happen in different places, and of course, the news explodes tragedies. Excuse me, and boys and their toys, and a push to more militarize the police. I don't. Yankee and I talked about it before. I still remember getting this thing when I was in the Corps, asking if I would be willing as a person in the military to open fire on fellow Americans. It was some crap they passed down through the command. Like, would I go to war with Americans? And I said no. And it ends up, because I didn't know what that meant. I just remember it. It was one of those things, it was weird to me. And again, I was in from 17 to 20, from I was 17 until 22 years old. I got out, but it's one of those things that stuck in my head. Well, Yankee explained it to me one day that went around the entire military, and it pretty much came out that only 20% of the military at that time, late 80s, early 90s, said they would open fire on their fellow Americans. But the police department was inverse of that. 80% of the cops said they would, and 20% said they would during a Civil War type thing. And then after that, again, throwing in those incidents I just named, there started to be a militarization of the police departments throughout America. Things happened at the same time, causation, all that stuff, like but it just all happened around the same time. I feel they're connected. Some people don't. Makes no difference. That's when it happened.
Well, there's a bit of they know their policies suck, or they understand that their policies are going to fail. They intend them to fail, whatever their perceptions are. The people that militarize what we're talking about are the same people that create the policies that those militarizations are there to, what's the word, like be the ultimate whatever for, like last barrier or something. Like that's messed up that they, anyway, that is definitely a tangent. So I said we weren't going to go on a tangent.
Yeah. I just I haven't been off for a minute. What are you going to do?
And it's a legitimate real one. So it's not like, let's yell about grip angles or which plate is better for, co-witnessing a blah, blah, blah brand new dot. All right. So Aldo had said something about building. We can't really talk about that stuff over here, and I don't have time to do it right now. But in the future...
Oh, we can't talk about bills anymore?
On YouTube, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying it's getting into that realm of like where their terms of service, they don't like people building, and it's probably a perception that 80% are, and they're like, I don't want to get into like, I'm not saying YouTube
no problem, man.
Or anything, or they're right, but mainly it's just that because it's weird over here, I think most of that kind of conversation has taken place on the Rumble, And I think it's just a better place to do that conversation because the people that are involved and interested aren't hanging around over here where it's child friendly. Let's not step on any toes. Let's err on the side of caution. YouTube, right? Which is fine. Run your giant company that way. But when you want to jump off that giant train and stop and talk to locals, that's what the other
Hmm.
platforms are for. So anyway, I'm not
Okay.
able to do that now, but I don't know. Hopefully, the big plan would be if everything goes according to plan still next year, get back on the road. And if I'm getting back on the road, that means I'm doing it smarter because I went into quite a bit of debt going on the road last time. If I get back on the road, I will not be doing that. And part of getting back on the road would be meeting up with some of the people, if they're still kicking, that I knew back in the days with the AK stuff. And I do have some parts kits, and it would be neat to travel to people who put those things together and give it to them and have conversations with them and hang out in their area and then pick it up and, kind of incorporate builds into a trip if I'm able to get around again. And then I'll definitely be talking about that stuff. And part of that will be dependent on how much we're able to talk about over on Rumble and how interested people are. What I have interest in a kit is I like to build guns that were built to kill us, right? I like to build the stuff that the enemies had to sell to us as capitalists because they never bothered to kill us with them, but they were built during the Cold War to kill us, literally, right? Like you and me, like
Hmm.
and everybody else who was in at that time. Like they were built to kill us. I like the idea that we can buy those kits and put them back together and shoot at dirt, right? We can just own them. We won. Like that's count and coup. Like we won that. And we didn't win it by having to fight. I'm down that I'm happy that we won it by out charge. What do we do? Outspent them, and we
Hmm.
had good things. We've done some things collaboratively. There was some science that, going into space and stuff, we were able to distract ourselves with pursuits that, helped every humanity and everything. So it's not like, it wasn't, and there was fights. So it was Afghanistan. It's like, let's not act like we didn't have fights. Also, we had Vietnam, right? There were
Hmm.
skirmishes, but we were able to keep them in check. So anyway, I like the idea that we're playing with Cold War stuff. So for me, the ultimate is put together a thing that looks as much like something that was built to kill us and maybe used by somebody for a little while. That's that's my extent of what I care about with AKs. Other people are like, oh, I wanted to build it for like shit hits the fan, or I wanted to build it to look like in a movie, or all these other pursuits that are fine. So what I have interest in, I don't know if other people do. And since it's been such a long time since I got into that stuff, I just don't know how well that'll fly. I might be out there flying an old kite that nobody wants to see fly anymore, and that might be. But
True.
if people are interested, then that'll be something I'll add to my mix because I would like to get some of my kits built. I didn't buy them for no reason, but I don't have the skills or the place to build them anymore. But I know all these people, so it would be interesting to kind of take them around and kind of BS with people, talk about the old days because my interest is in the everything I just talked about. Those guns were built to kill us, and let's say name a country, Russia ideally, but not always because we can't get those guns. So not just Russia, but Germany, Bulgaria. I could name off about a dozen countries that were forced by the communists to build these things. Every single one of those sources has a different story. Essentially, think of the movie Lord of War, right? There's all that kind of stuff happening. And that's what you get to kind of forensically discover as you get into building AKs, at least the kind of stuff I'm into. So again, that might be interesting to people. Maybe that stuff's all played out. Maybe somebody wrote a fucking book about it already and I have nothing to discover. But for me, back in the early 2000s, that's what I was doing. I was discovering that stuff, hanging out with people that were discovering it also. And I was just putting it all down on the internet, right? Like other people were putting it in forums and, having their conversations kind of publicly, but also you had to be in the forum to know the conversation was happening. And I always had a funny feeling, hey, you put this stuff in the forums, you depend on the forums. What happens when the forums goes under? What happens when the forum does a update incorrectly? Or what happens when the server changes underneath them, which would happen every couple of
Hmm.
years back then what happens to all that conversation? So my idea was to archive that stuff. And that I had a passion for doing that for a long time. And then YouTube came around and, this other stuff happened. So if I can bring all that stuff back, yeah, it'd be neat to dust off some kits. I've had to sell most of my kits along the way, but just keep afloat. But I still have a couple, and I have some things that I could trade with people and stuff. So yeah, it'd be interesting to do some of that. But like I say, I'll be doing that on the platform where those kind of people hang out, I think. I don't know. Do you have any
Totally
interest
understand.
in stuff like that? If you had,
Well, dude, that's where I found you, watching you do the AK stuff. It was interesting to watch, especially because I lived in a place that didn't allow it. So I couldn't do that, but I could watch that. So to me, it was really cool. What I could do is put together my own ARs. So that's what I did. Um, because for me, I like weird stuff. I like it all. I mean, obviously, I have the 1917 Enfield. I have the Mosins from 1899 and Mosins from 1942. So I like the surplus also. But when it came for me to put my ARs together, I do stuff a little strange if I'm not, working for just keep it vanilla so I can introduce people to firearms. So I'd have the polymer lower from G-Wax Armory for my AR and a dissipator upper because I like the look, the 90s look of the dissipator, but also to give people rifle length uh, sight radius when I'm instructing them in the NRA basic classic or when I was, uh, introducing them to firearms. So my thing is a little twisted, but it's a Venn diagram, and pretty much I encompass everything with my interest, from black powder to whatever's current. Because I shoot black powder too, I mean, I have my revolver, but I'm not going to jump down that bandwagon. I'll just hang out with other people that shoot their guns at this point.
I like taking, well, for a long time when we were shooting a lot, I would take my black powder, their percussion cap Derringers, right? Or single shot pistols,
Mm-hmm.
I want to call them. So very inexpensive. I probably bought them for like $7 or $10 because I'm cheap. I have a couple of them. And I have one that's a flintlock, which I like. But most of the time we brought them out with the percussion cap. So you don't have to do, essentially you're putting a primer on the little cap. You pull back the hammer, it's always going to work. You don't have to worry about the issues with a flintlock where it'll literally not always work. And you don't have to worry about priming the pan and all that. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
what I like to do is take I have a 9mm cartridge, like a spent brass from 9mm that's got a little piece of wire on it. So it turns it into a little scoop. I
Yep.
got that for a cannon one time because it's like whatever that amount of black powder is or gunpowder is, whatever. Black powder, I guess. That much makes noise, but it's not dangerous-ish. It's probably dangerous, but it's not dangerous. It's just enough to make noise. If you put some toilet paper or something, or if you put a projectile, it'll push it out, but it's not going to shoot 700 yards or anything. Anyhow, so I have this little scoop, and I would put that 9mm worth of powder in there, and then just turn around a spent 7.62 by 39 case and throw it in there backwards. So primer first, or it would come out primer first, and
Mm-hmm.
those things shoot awesome. Like that amount of black powder shoots a 7.62 by 39 out of whatever they are, 38, I guess. Probably 38 or 42 or something, whatever the caliber of these kits are that you get. They're all the same caliber, it seems like. I think it's 38. But anyway, those spent rounds, they're usually just laying around on the floor. Nobody picks them up because they're not brass. It's super fun to shoot. And so I would shoot those things, all afternoon while everybody else was getting into shooting stuff that was more expensive than I was going to shoot. And, just shooting them at rocks or whatever, shooting them in a little tree on a hill or something.
Yep.
Okay, so essentially just holding onto a cannon and having fun, just making noise and seeing like a BB gun, just watching something shoot. The last question that I had start over here, since we're on the topic of safes, what are your opinions on safe fire ratings? From Plain Nut, it seems the more I learn about, the more deceptive it is. Am I wrong in thinking that? No, I think there was that guy from Florida did a really good video back in the day where there's safes that you get for like a jewelry store where they're
Mm-hmm.
literally like 6 inches of really good steel. Like that's the kind where people have to blow them open with dynamite and everything. And
They're T1 rated.
and what does those cost? Like $70,000. They cost more than
No. They don't. T1 rating doesn't cost that much. I mean, excuse me. It costs significantly more than a regular safe. But they have relockers on them. They have glass relockers. They have whole anti-drill plates in them. So you're significantly paying more. And unless you have a Hope Diamond in your safe, there's no reason for you to have that.
and
Unless you have really high-end stuff.
a
What was that?
refrigerator. and one the size of a refrigerator is going to have like a size of a large oven inside of it because it's going to have steel. They're like really thick. So
Yeah.
nobody buys those. So those are real safe. And you can't even move them. Like nobody buys those. And then there's everything else. And that is essentially, look, to me, it goes Fort Knox and then Liberty underneath of there. And then I don't know if there's anything under there. Then you get down to the imports, which are stop sign material with plaster Paris in between them. And that's pretty much everything you've seen everywhere. Anything that looks thick but doesn't weigh a ton is that. So Liberty and Fort Knox is on one side of a little cul-de-sac, and Liberty is at the entrance to the cul-de-sac. Fort Knox existed, and from what I understand, somebody left. I don't know if it was like a kid or one of the workers. I forget the story, but somebody left Fort Knox, went across the street, and started Liberty. So they're basically the same origin story across the street from each other in Salt Lake City. Fort Knox is U.S. steel, U.S. design. Everything is made there in Orem, Utah, or whatever it is, and shipped to you. So nothing outside the United States. Liberty is essentially they buy their metal in Mexico and do everything here. And then everybody else is China or Mexico. And then they get imported to the United States and sold to you. So that's, from what I understand, there's pretty much few options that are U.S. made, and then everything else is imported. And everything else is where they start playing with the fire ratings. They start going, we're half the temperature, but 3 times as long. Or, we use kelvins instead of BTUs, or we use temperature Celsius instead of Kelvin units. Or so essentially you get your $1,000 plus safe. Well, I can't even put it that way because some of the garbage safes cost that much too. Essentially, there's Fort Knox and there's Liberty. I don't like Liberty as much. I like Fort Knox, but and then everything else is just for show. Everything else is inexpensive. So they're lockers with a bit of a fire rating.
So as far as fire rating is concerned, because I used to see this and the price would go up ridiculously the higher the level. Your house isn't going to burn for over an hour, dude. You know what I mean? Unless you live way out in a rural area somewhere, like middle of nowhere.
Or you put it
your
in
house
a wood shop. Like I'm going to put my safe in the middle of a wood shop or my fire pile.
Industrial something or other that's huge. You're not going to have a fire burn for an hour around your safe, or 2 hours, or 3-hour fire ratings. These are things they tell you, and you go, wow, that's a good idea. And it's like, yeah, but it's totally unnecessary. It's overkill, and you're not getting anything that's actually usable. So, yes, I'm thinking they fudge those, and they use it as they fudge fire ratings, but like go with one that's an hour, and you'll probably be good for darn near everything.
Well, again, it depends. Like I've installed safes into garages, and I've installed them in living rooms and kitchens and bathrooms. Not kitchens, but not bathrooms, but living rooms and
closets, upstairs, bedrooms. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So if it's going into a bedroom and it's some clothes, how long are clothes going to take to burn? Worst case scenario, the wall around it's going to burn, blah, blah, blah. But now you put that into the wood shop, and it's got hardwoods stacked on one side of it and of it, and then that's in the basement of a place, so the whole place is going to burn and fall on top of it and keep like that's a different situation. It's on the far wall of a garage versus the inside wall of the garage. It's right next to all the electrical. So think about your situation and where you're putting it, and then start thinking about, do I need to worry about fire rating or not? And if I do, then how bad do I need to worry about it?
Yeah, because one of the stories they had with one of ours, that was to sell the fire rating to you. And again, the guy had his safes, and he had a huge safe, gun safe, but he had it in his hangar at the airport. He had a personal hangar. It was one of those private airports or whatever. Well, you got aviation fuel there. It burns hotter and longer. And, his guns came out safe, and you should have this too. Yeah, okay, when I have my own private airfield. Yeah, then I'll look at that, because I may be in a similar situation. But until then, about an hour ratings is good. Also, one of the things is burglar rating. that they try to get you on also. You know what I mean? That's another rating that they give things.
Like how long it'll take a standard burglar to get into this safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And truthfully, regular safe works. You use layered anything, you use layered security and not depend on one thing. So you have, and I'm not telling anybody where anyone's stuff is, but if you have it on your closet, integrate your closet door that has the safe in it into your alarm system. That if somebody goes in there, it goes off.
Yeah, it doesn't matter
Or
how
have
they
some,
open it or how they pull it away from the wall or whatever, because it's still going to be
yeah,
somebody. Yeah.
yeah, and again, you have all securities and layers. You don't depend on one thing because one thing can be defeated or bypassed. So if you have motion sensor, you know what I mean. If you have a camera, if you have contacts on your doors to break magnetic contact, you combine all of that, and some of the stuff you may want to either use a different contractor, not the same one for everything, or put something in yourself that your contractor doesn't know about. I had an incident where these people talked about going on vacation. They really wanted this company to put in their alarm system. Well, all they had was an alarm system, so the company came out and put the alarm system in. Family wanted it done before they went on vacation to the Bahamas for a week or 2 weeks. It was an extended period of time. Well, the alarm company had dirt bags working for them, and what they did was put an alarm on their front door and put enough wire in it that when these people left, the company came back and took the door out of the frame and laid the door down, the whole door frame and everything, laid it down on the sidewalk, and it never broke the contact because they didn't have to open a door. They had like 10 feet of wire. So it just spooled out. They went in the house, cleaned their house out, and left. The door and frame and everything was lying on their front steps. They just bypassed it all, went in and out of the house. And you couldn't see the front of the house because of the trees and everything they had in front of it from the road. So the work truck that was there 2 days ago was there for another day. Okay, nothing suspicious. It's a van.
I was just going to say, by the time you take a front door off like that with a work truck, not too many people are going to call
You're
the police.
working, obviously.
See
Yeah.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you were there. This is the same van's been there 2 days this week. So it's the third day. Obviously, they're finishing up. And the reason it happened because they called me to change the locks. And I'm like, your locks with a problem. They didn't even open the door.
In 2023 and going into 24, you've got the ability to put cameras up that you can, have like a little thing do that, give you a little ring, and you look at it and you see, the motion sensor went off in my house, and then you can react
Yes.
accordingly. You can
A
have
lot of things you can do on your own, and I suggest you do if you're having a safe and you're worrying about someone coming in and taking your stuff, or even if you're doing it precautionary.
I do it
Spend a
all.
little
I
bit.
was talking about just have people house sit. So for me, I'm lucky to have friends that are like pretty happy to be able to just come over here and have a bachelor pad if I'm out of town. Like they'll just have a
Okay.
place where they can come over and watch TV or whatever, watch a movie, and then just to be here. So back in the
Cool.
days, we started doing that when there was critters, but yeah, that's not everybody's got that option. But you can make it look like that, right? You can also have timers and.
Mm-hmm.
But like Tony said, also just not having everybody involved in every aspect of whatever your business is. Although
Definitely.
mentions we're getting off in tangents, but we're talking about safes a little bit. But having cement wall around 3 sides of an area and then stacking gypsum stuff around it, you can make the safe that's inferior more fireproof by yourself, and it doesn't cost very much to upgrade, like you're saying, with some fireproof materials around it. Give it some dead air space and fireproof materials. Essentially, you're building a kiln that keeps heat out instead of heat in. So
Yep.
essentially, you just build like a kiln around it or an oven around it, and that doesn't cost much at all. And I'm definitely, about thinking outside the box like that. And then additionally, he says getting a fire alarm system could be better than a better safe, or cheaper and more effective, right? So it's a great point. If it's going to cost you, well, I don't know, a good safe, like what I'm thinking of when I think of a good safe, is going to start at 15. Well, back in the day, they started at 15, probably more like 18 or something now. maybe even
Oh,
two.
1800?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
the front,
yeah.
the
That was
small
back in
port.
the day. I don't even know.
So, small 1400 or small Fort Knox might cost you $2,000. And that's going to be
Hmm.
the least fire rating with a lot of metal, like real metal though. So that, I still want my real metal so that somebody with a saw doesn't get at it. But I could
Hmm.
see, not going with the fancy fire rating because they put the fire rating stuff inside your safe, which means your safe
Hmm.
has to get bigger or you lose some safe space. So nothing's magic. So I like the idea of getting as much little safe as you can afford with real metal and then doing like what Aldo's saying, just give it some fire rating by yourself if you have to worry about that, or put it in a place that's less of an issue. But then I was going to say,
Also,
see these
oh, go ahead.
basketballs that explode and put out a fire? They're like this. There's like these
Mm-mm.
balls that are the size of a basketball, and you throw it into a fire. So it's like a fire extinguisher. You have them hanging on the
Oh,
wall.
wow.
Sometimes
Hmm.
they'll put them like near an electric panel, just hanging on the wall, and you can either
Hmm.
pick it up and throw it at a fire, or if it's above the fire will just start it. And there's something about it's like a firework or something. The outside layer catches fire and explodes the thing, and it explodes baking soda or something all around. So it's like a little
Nice.
explosion of baking soda that'll blow out the fire, like the explosion blows out the fire, but then it
Hmm.
also lays this anti-flame stuff down. And I'm sure you might have seen it on videos or whatever. It's been going around, but it's something like that, something that's essentially like a anti-fire grenade. You just set one of them
Hmm.
things up. It costs like $40, I think. You put one of them above your safe, and if there is some kind of fire, it can get to the point where it's going to set that thing off, where it's going to bother your safe. It's going to set that thing off, and then if nothing else, kill it a little bit, if not discourage it completely. Again, I don't know what your house is made out of that, you know, it would be
Okay.
fire.
One more suggestion I gave this to people because they wanted to worry about that burglary rating. And I'm like, the amount of money you're going to spend to upgrade your burglary rating, you can upgrade the room that you're going to keep the safe in. Just like you talk about with the fire rating,
Yeah, yeah.
solid door, solid frame, high security deadbolt, very long extra screws. Upgrade that whole thing to make that room more difficult to get in. High security deadbolt using things like from the company Multilock or from Medico. These are all high security locks, high security keys, and hardened front on the face of the lock to prevent against drilling and other tricks of the trade that are built into the lock. And I'm talking again, these are prices that were there when I was doing this prior to 2008. In the real world, because I work for the government now and we don't use that kind of thing. But we're talking $200, 250 for a high security deadbolt, solid door, solid frame, or solid door metal frame, and again, alarm on that door. So if you have a safe room, which I encourage people to do in their house and buy a safe room, I just mean put that kind of door and frame on, and that's your safe room, and you can have a different alarm on that separate from the house alarm. It's you don't have to spend a lot of money on these things. Again, layered security is better than one thing that you depend on, and a lot of it is do it yourself. You just have to think your way through it, just like the guys here in the chat. Don't And that's all I have to say about that because I think we'll both end up saying the same thing, and they've already hinted at it.
And then Gizzard just jumped in, and he's living in the third floor apartment, so that throws everything for a loop because you've got different scenario completely. So I'm just gonna, because as I was saying, the only ones made in the USA are Fort Knox and Liberty. Obviously, that can't be correct, right? Like there has to be other stuff made in the USA. And as I was
Hmm.
thinking that, I'm pretty sure it's made in the USA, but there's a company that makes a pretty sturdy uh, locker. They don't call it a safe either. I'm pretty sure they call it a locker, but it's decent and it's made for, let's say, people enlisted who are moving around a lot, or people that are working jobs that are moved around a lot, and
Hmm.
it bolts together, so you can take it all apart. And it's like, imagine if you had like a school locker, like a gym locker or whatever, or a gun safe that came apart and its sides are bolted together, so that you could unbolt it from the inside, and it would come apart and you could transport it as a big flat heavy thing. It would be like transporting a big flat heavy piece of, all these pieces of metal, but definitely not dragging a big safe up into an apartment or whatever. but you could drag it up in pieces, bring it up an elevator in pieces, whatever, and then assemble it in, where you're at. And then, if you ever moved or whatever, disassemble it and pull it back out the same way. But I know that they made those for people that were, again, kind of not transient, but whatever the word is, moved around. Also, I think for apartments and situations like that, where it would just be expensive, if not even impossible, to get somebody to drag a safe up. There are some like robot feet things that can move safes upstairs, but go up a stairs doesn't mean people with experience want to take that thing upstairs. Like, there's all kinds of reasons why you take a heavy thing upstairs.
Oh, I've done it. Sometimes your stairs can't handle that weight. When we're bringing the safe mover in and it weighs, I'll toss a number out because I had to move the sucker. It weighs like 7,500 pounds, 120 pounds. Then we strap a 500, 700, 1,200 pound safe to it, and we bring it back. You move it to the steps, you stand it up, you raise the wheels, then you pull the thing back. Like, I'm fighting this thing all the way up your stairs, and halfway, I had stairs collapse on me as we were bringing stuff through a Bilko door. That sucked, but luckily it was going in the basement, and we were like 2 steps to go when it just went, and it cracked, and we dropped into the basement. Yeah.
The good news is it's never coming out real easy.
Yeah, that's done. But we already warned them ahead of time. I'm like, this is a heavy safe. We have the mover, we have the safe, and we have 2 dudes all on your Bilko steps, and we can't go fast. And if it shoots down the steps, it's going to fire off the relockers. You know what I mean? And now you're going to have somebody come and drill out your brand new safe. It all worked. It got down there, cracked the steps. They brought someone in and fixed it. It wasn't our fault because we'd warned them ahead of time. But I mean, it's a lot involved when you're thinking about this, and some of it is not necessary, and some of it may be necessary, or some of it's in your head, and you can layer it like we talked about, and you don't have to spend that amount of money or have something that heavy. Also, don't run around bragging about how much stuff you have and nobody's breaking into your house. Target's an opportunity, and somebody definitely knows that you have high-end stuff for 2 different things. Oh, and that's also when it comes into New Jersey concealment furniture and companies like that. I'm throwing it out there only because my friend owns it. If they don't know it's a safe in the first place, and it's still secure.
So you're saying kids should think twice about leaning out of his 3rd floor apartment window and then popping off rounds and saying, I dare you to come up to the 3rd floor of this apartment building and look for my guns.
I dare you to come up to apartment 315 and see if you can find.
You're never going to find whatever guns I may have.
Not a hair on your ass. You come up here.
So
look all day.
Plain Nut is saying Snap Safe from Hornady. So they don't have them on Amazon, but I'll look at them anyway.
All right, what is that?
Says it's I'm not looking at the thing. It says it's a modular safe that delivers welded safe security, easy to assemble. All the security of a conventional welded safe, but easy to assemble. Really, we don't get any pictures. But it essentially, that looks kind of like what I was thinking. It's essentially, it looks like a safe, but instead of being a bunch of fire rating, they just give you the metal. And I'm all about that, especially for like an apartment.
Yeah, I don't trust Snap-on. I don't trust Hornady. I really don't.
That's what I was going to say too. Is this isn't the company? The company I heard of was like either a vet or somebody who was a son of, or like child of a vet, because they were doing it with an interest. Like they had a passion. They were trying to fill a hole in what they saw. This looks like either they bought it or they're like, hey, that's a great idea. We can make that in China.
Okay, yeah. The reason I'm throwing it out there with Hornady is an ammunition manufacturer. They put their name on something, so someone else made it, and someone else probably made it for less money than Hornady's charging to put their name on it. So it's not even their product. We use the Hornady biometric safe because these people, everybody thinks they know how to do your job. It's part of our active shooter protocol that they demanded that I get biometric Hornady safes, and I tried to people don't want to hear it because job titles and crap and just workplace silliness. But I'm like, this is not a safe company. What are you doing? I'm like, this is something you're overpaying for that they just put their name on. And but they went with it. I installed it, and then they discovered it was not worth the money they spent and don't even use it. And I'm a petty enough person to look them dead in their face and say, I told your ass. And I did do that because I tried to warn you that one of us is a professional at safe and locks, and the other ones are professional at a different kind of security, i.e., inmates.
So
Totally different things.
and this is just talking about it, and there's one on the screen here. I like these.
Let me see.
The idea of
Zoom.
these under the bed types, maybe not for
Yep.
Hornet, but like I know Fort Knox had done some different stuff that they had welded up. It was just really metal. I don't think they were trying to do any kind of fire rating with something like a box like this. But there's a couple of companies that make them here in the U.S. that aren't just imported, and I think they come from like cars and RVs. And they're like, oh, well, we're making this box anyway. We might as well make it for like under a bed or like to fill a drawer in a desk or something. And you got that kind of option where it's not as big as a safe, but you could get a bunch of handguns into something and like that fits into the drawer.
Like some stuff is storage and some stuff is for access for home security. Different things, different locking mechanisms, different security. Think your stuff well out, and like what Aldo says, you don't have to keep everything in one spot either.
That's a good point.
It's different things, man. I mean, it's not like the old man back in the day where you got a gun stuck in the back of the sofa and you got another one in the sock drawer and you got another one, above the bathroom in the drop ceiling, or in the water tank, in a Ziploc, like your Corleone in the restaurant, if you remember that scene. But I mean, the son that was in the restaurant, they hid the pistol in the water reservoir in the toilet. He went in and got it and came out and killed the guy. It's my Godfather 1 or 2. Anyway, my whole thing is, it's not as complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it can be. You can buy a very high quality safe and put it away, or you can come up with alternative methods and secure the room, build the fireproofing, do all that stuff yourself. Understand something else about safes. You might want to get it for your guns, but between you and your wife, y'all going to put other stuff in it. Important paperwork, jewelry,
photos,
things, documentation.
Hard drives, thumb drives. Yep, for sure.
It's going to fill up with more stuff.
Get those what do they call them? The shelves on top. People are like, I just want it to hold rifles. Like, no. You want as much room as there as you can possibly get. Think of how much room you got, and then think of buying more safe than whatever will fit in whatever room you got.
Always buy more safe. Always buy more safe than you think you'll need. And this is one of those.
Makes it harder to rip it off too. Makes it harder for them to steal it.
Makes it harder for them to steal it, but you're gonna use it. Listen, it's gonna be good safes are a significant investment. Buy once, cry once, and one of the ways you will cry is when you discover you bought a safe, spent the X number of dollars on it, and can't fit as much stuff as you want to in it. Now you have to buy another one. So buy a little more safety. Buy significantly more safe than you need if you can afford it. Buy a little more if you can afford it, but get more safe than you need, and you won't be sorry.
So since we're doing that, then you don't have to throw away your old safe. So nothing's wrong with starting. Everybody starts with something, right? So you start with something, and then stuff gets delegated to that one, and then less important stuff. Okay, I got pictures in this one, but my guns are in that one because it's better. The rifles are in here, but the pistols are in there, something like that. Or maybe you get your locker, and then you finally get your safe. Usually, most people, I think it's around 7 to 10 guns. You probably go, I got a lot of money here. Let's not buy the gun next month. Let's buy a safe instead. And that's where they get you with those $400 safes. Better to wait like 3-4 months and buy a $1,000 plus safe. And you could buy a used safe. There's nothing
Yep.
wrong with buying a used safe. Do
I
that.
was going to say that. Yep. Used safes are good too.
But then you got your locker. Somewhere along the way, you're going to have a locker. There's nothing wrong with having a locker just for cool stuff like your fishing poles or something too, just so that they don't get crushed by a bunch of garbage in your shed or something, right? So having those lockers out in the garage or in the someplace, nothing wrong with that. It's not necessarily like a bad guy is going to get stopped by it, but having stuff that distracts them and wastes their time, they open that up and it's full of Christmas wrappings or your fishing poles or something, and they're like, they didn't find your guns in that half hour that it took them to bust in there, or that 20 minutes, depending on how competent they are.
Another thing, fireproofing in your safe degrades over time. The fireproofing is not forever. It actually degrades. So if you pick it up a used safe, understand it might not have that fire rating again. It might not have the same fire rating as it did when it was new.
Oh, and think it like we were saying before, though, it's not like fire rating is the biggest deal for most people. So
Yeah. Nope.
That's not a crucial. That's like, let that depreciation happen there because the metal's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it and putting it out there because if you think it is a big deal or is important to you, understand that it's a factor in there. And if they're trying to make it a selling point that the 20-year-old safe has a fire rating, you go, yeah, probably really doesn't right now. And buying used safes are cool. Okay, I'm a geek. So some of the old school safes are really cool. Some of the old dieball safes with the brass and all that.
Heck yeah.
They're still effective. Now, it's not the latest rating, whatever, but one has that old school look. Sorry, but some of them are beautiful. Some of them are way heavy. Concrete floor is cool, but they can still secure your stuff. Some of them have thinner bolts, but many of them still had 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch bolts. They lock themselves in. Your grandparents or parents' safe wasn't garbage, dude. Like that was
No.
the era where people broke into safes using nitroglycerin. So some of those had doors with steps in it. If you ever look at the lips, some of them had like 3 different lips going in that the door closed at almost tiers, like what do you call that?
Like a step pyramid.
Yeah. Terrace. Like
Yeah.
a terrace. It had steps, yeah. And it closed so you couldn't pour nitro in it around the edge of the door and set it off and it blew the door off. All of that stuff is real burglar proofing back in the day, and they integrated into the design in the 1900s, 1920s. So buying a safe like that, you can get those things from auctions and antique stores, and the guts of the safe themselves, the dial, the 3 dials, most of them are 3 dial safes, 3-wheel safes. They're good. They can still be used. Have somebody check them over, and you can still secure your stuff inside. And the cool thing about the older safes, if it does go down, because many of them are common, especially companies like Diebold, which still makes your ATM machine safes, they have drill points where a professional could come in with professional equipment and get it open quickly, or get it open at a price, but it's not going to cost an arm and a leg. Fair note of warning to anybody drilling the safe. They put CS powder in these safes, some of the burglar safes. So if you drill a hole and look in there, it will shoot that freaking stuff out and it's just as potent now as it was when they put it in an airtight container behind the dial. Ask me how I know.
Well, they do all kinds of stuff back in the day, and then, like you say, nowadays somebody who knows what they're doing is going to be able to know exactly where to drill to bypass that kind of stuff if they need to bust into it or whatever. But I don't know, I see fewer and fewer of those. I remember back in the day seeing them a lot, and it was just when the garbage plastic with plaster Paris in between, like fire safes, were coming out, so everyone was buying those and getting rid of grandpa's safe or grandma's safe because they were super heavy and they were scared if they got something locked in there, they'd never get it out. And you can always get into one of these plastic ones with an axe. Everybody knows it. It's just that it keeps honest people honest or whatever. But so anyway, those used to be at garage sales and stuff all the time. And if I would have had like a barn or something, I'd probably own a few because I'm with you. They look cool. And they had a lot of ornamentation. People were going to spend a lot of money to have that thing shipped out from the East, at least out here, right? And they wanted, it was going to be a centerpiece, just like now. It was going to be a centerpiece. So, like and they wanted to show it off, like, oh, you can trust
Exactly.
us. Look at that, we got a safe. You can trust us. Look at our safe.
Yep. It's got the business, insurance company, banks. They had the names etched in there, sometimes in gold leaf. I mean, look, this is what I did for a long time, and it became one of those things that's really cool because they called us, I'm a locksmith when we sold safes, but they'd also call us to remove safes sometimes when we sold them a new one. And now I got this cool ass thing on metal wheels, big wide metal wheels, right? Almost like for a train looking metal wheels. And what are you going to do with it? Well, shoot, I want to keep it. Oh, and sometimes because it's such an investment and such a part, after it went from being the safe that kept the loot in it or the expensive thing, they'd still use it for paperwork and they'd build cabinets inside and it would have drawers and everything.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a file cabinet, except cool looking.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. It was a cool looking file cabinet.
I've seen ones that were used like storage for like jars of food and stuff, like because it was cool in there. I've seen ones that were like essentially like an ice box. That's what I was trying to think of, like a energy free ice box. You would just close the door and put your peaches and shit in there.
Same thing, bro. Wine, sell cooler, wine, whatever. Yeah, and cigar humidor.
That would probably make for both of those. That probably a bunch of them probably got hooked up for that. Imagine what wine place or cigar place wouldn't want a really cool ornate. In fact, I think there's a bar somewhere some friend of mine went to where they have like a giant safe, like a bank safe at the bottom of some hotel or something, and they turn that into the bar, and that's probably the wine cellar or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Whiskey, right? It would be keep anything at whatever consistent temperature.
Yep. And I mean, I'm a geek, and this is what I did, and it's a passion. If I had a place, I'd probably have one of those in there as a centerpiece, with my cigars in it behind a humidor that you could see through.
Well, you know Toby from Cape Gunworks, right? In Massachusetts. Yeah. They had 3 gun shops. They started off in like the closet, literally like under the stairs closet of the woodworking store that they had or shop that they had. And then once it got bigger than that, they had a location that was a bank and they had a vault in there. And I'm like, I would have let the store grow, but I would have kept that location just because, owning a bank or owning a bank vault, like, wouldn't that be awesome?
Mm-hmm.
Just people.
Yep. We almost crashed an elevator. My dad and I moving one that was so big it exceeded the weight limit on the elevator. Oh, dude.
Got it in there with a crane or something, probably.
Oh, bro, we got that on there, and the elevator dropped like 2 inches, maybe more. At the time, I was able to just fit my hand in to push the button so it could go downstairs, and then I had to get in and wedge myself behind it. Obviously, I was a lot smaller. I was, a svelte 225 pounds. Then I had to get behind it. My dad and I, who was Herculean in strength, finally got it off of the elevator. Thank God it stopped even with the floor when it got down there. And we got that sucker out and had to fight it into the back of a truck. Yeah, that was one of the cooler ones. And yeah, they had built hardwood shelves inside of it and turned it into a cabinet of sorts. And I tried to convince them to bring it inside and just coat it with quality paint, like get a quality paint job and resell it as an antique. But they were more interested in moving the newer safes, which I kind of understand. Floor space is floor space.
Well, and I imagine at some points when metal's expensive, those things are probably worth their weight in gold, literally, because of that old metal.
Yeah, I mean, if I would have had anywhere to store something like that, I would just update it, grease it, make it something. If I didn't use it myself, I'd definitely sell it as antique because to my mind, again, it's beauty in the eye of the beholder. Some people get that ugly thing out of here and put a new safe in that's smaller and better at what safes do. Totally understand. And my dad, my stepmom were definitely about, the business end of how much does this cost versus nostalgia. Nostalgia to them is a feeling if it didn't have a price tag on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not like you can easily just move that over. Like, hey, scoot those safe because we're gonna put something next to it or vacuum underneath the safe real quick. Like, yeah, it becomes a permanent part of the store until somebody's buying it. And if they're not buying it quick, then it's a permanent part of the store, period, right?
Yeah, and pretty much, listen, if you're dig old safes, um, when you pass, nobody else is going to dig that old safe. They just want that thing out of the house. And we've done plenty of those too. Could you get Dad's old safe out of the house? We don't want it here. But hey, whatever, man. Hey, look, gun people, sometimes we're into some, like gun people, or sometimes knife people, sometimes car people. We like things. And sometimes we like old things because there was a quality build there at one time and a look, certain look.
For sure.
Yes,
And
I
the
think.
craftsman, an artisanship to it when stuff was either hand fitted or still assembled by a person who, was in quality or inspecting it as it went together, making sure that it was going to work, even if it wasn't, had to be hobbled together, each one separate. You still had a person who was, pushing a pin in here and then pushing this and that. And
Yep.
they'd know after putting 100 of them together that, oh, no, I'm not letting this one go through the line because it wouldn't work. There'd be that quality level that you just have when a human is holding it in their hands versus going through some assembly line and coming out the other end and having 2 quality checks and then sent out to the customer.
And it was expectations, like you said. It was prestige of that business that you had that thing, so it looked a certain way. And also, we had, I think design was a bigger thing then. I think now we call it, you know, um, well, for a minute, what years were those? Like the early 2000s, called feng shui. It was just how things flowed, and Art Deco was a thing, and design was a thing. Not so much functional now. I think we're in functional time. I think that's a lot of what office furniture or stuff like a safe is for most people. But we've seen saw it different. We saw the evolution of it. We saw they started use Sergeant Greenleaf free wheels that were well made and brass and hardened. We watched that change.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking there's a time when people would have gold in their house and they'd have maybe some
Hmm.
bond certificates or something, and they'd have maybe a stack of cash or some jewelry. Jewelry still exists, but of all
Jewelry,
those other
definitely.
things, like, what do you need anymore? Now all your shit is, maybe on a thumb drive because you have passwords to stuff, but our valuables are in accounts that are in the cloud, and very rarely do we have stacks of cash or chunks of gold. Some people do, I'm sure, but back in the day, I think it was way more common to have, the family jewels, because that was a thing, the family wad of cash, that kind of stuff. So, um, inheritances were literally physically a thing more than just
Yep.
accounts being changed around. So I think there was
Yeah,
everyone
a
had a
lot
safe
changed.
because of that, or, more people had safes because of that. And again,
You're
if you
true, true.
look at it around, just like a refrigerators can look like a square box because they're going to go behind the freaking wood thing, or they're going in the shed or the back room or the garage or something. And then some refrigerators are stainless and they stand out because they're going to be a $1 million kitchen and they're going to be seen. So, everyone's going to have different ambition for the thing. And
Very true. I mean, it's just funny though, because most people are like, you geeks are talking about safes. I'm like, yeah, because they're freaking cool.
we haven't even started talking about. Been paying off some debts and stuff, doing some things, and what part of that is with a key machine, key duplicating machine,
Hmm.
and uh, and well, I've always threatened to try to schedule some time with Tony to do a show about locksmithing and locks and stuff, because I'm down. I was a locksmith for a little while too, nowhere near as much as what Tony's doing, but as a side gig when I was doing some other stuff. Uh, anyway, I was a locksmith for a little bit, and I'm a big fan of that stuff. It's just neat. It's like you say, it's the mechanical stuff, I guess. It's the, like, challenge the knowledge or whatever, and it's sort of practical, I guess. If you're gonna have a hobby, it's adjacent to being practical. Well, I mean, for you it is
Hmm.
practical, but it's also an interesting hobby. We've been talking about safes, but apply that to padlocks or apply it to doorknobs or Hey, we can go on and on. Point it to hinges, really.
Yep. I just got a new guy that started and this week. So I've been training him how these things work. He worked at the prison for 30 years as a corrections officer, but now he's on the flip side working on the locks. Now, I'd worked with him before, so he knows some of the basics, but not the why and the how. So I find it interesting because he's into it. Like yesterday, he spent pretty much an hour trying to pick a couple of master padlocks. And I just left him to it because he was trying to figure it out. Can't tell. Some things you have to feel.
Kind of
So I
like,
just left.
right? It's like walking a dog. Anybody knows all you got to do is walk a dog, but you walk a million dogs, and then you're not going to get a dog that pulls on you, and it's not going to bark and be weird. You know, it's like you're just going to get familiar with reading the dog, and you get familiar with reading that lock. Or maybe like driving cars. You know, your first time you're driving a car, you're hesitant and you don't know how the brakes work really well, and you're stopping weird and everything. And by the time you've been doing it for a few years, you can get in pretty much any car and just drive it comfortably. Pretty much master it in a few days, few miles.
And the exact same thing. And I mean, it's just different and it's kind of funny. Because this is this is the third person I've had to train for this job in the last decade and a half. And since he already retired from one job and you can't double dip into a pension, he's just riding it out until he can actually retire with Social Security. So I'm like, great. That means he's going to be gone in 10 years and I'll be training somebody else. So guaranteed, I'll at least train 5 different locksmiths during my time at this prison. And we can only hire one. And we can only hire one at a time.
With that, I can't do nothing about that one, but I can go, hey, we're almost at the 3-hour mark. This
roll out of here, man.
Is freaking me out. He needs to go to do something outside, I suspect. So we'll start wrapping this one up. You've wait, the 24th? No, not 24th. The 21st was your 22nd was your last one.
No, 14th. 14th of 2 weeks ago.
Oh, it was 2 weeks ago? I thought it was yesterday. Okay, so it was the 14th.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, 14th. 14th was the last one. It was great. It was so it was diverse. And of course, if you guys know me, jokes abounded about the diversity of my diversity shoot. We had the Filipino dude. I think he was Filipino. I don't know what he was. I was even surprised he was Asian. But anyway, we had some of everybody there, and I made fun of everyone in the room, including myself. But it was a great time. A lot of people, first event. Some people never fired a gun before, and we introduced them to it at the event. Other people's are veteran gun owners, and reduced them to Second Amendment advocates at our Second is for Everyone diversity shoots. So it was really great. Some of my guys who've been coming since they were in high school are now in college, and they came back with their friends and introduced them to firearms. So we're having a great time at the Diversity Shoot. Please, if you go to diversityshoot.com, you can donate to us. You can also follow me on Instagram at Simon Says Train. You can follow me on X at Second for Everyone. And you can follow me on Facebook on Simon Says Train and the Second is for Everyone. So thank you very much for having me on. We're going to Vegas to SHOT Show next month, and we're starting year 9 of the Second is for Everyone diversity shoot in 2024. We're going to be doing more ranges. I'm working on schedules right now. One part of me wants to just do first half of the year and put it out, but the other part wants the entire year. Our plan is to do at least 20 events in New Jersey and also do a tour, and I have to figure out where. I'm also going to be in Atlanta doing train and learn on Memorial Day weekend. And I think a week after Valentine's Day, I'm going to be at the Ambassador Academy down in Florida, going through that training, 4-day training there on advocacy, learning to give interviews, They're going to be taking headshots and doing promotional photos with us if every other class is in the invitation. So a lot of professional development scheduled in 2024, and we haven't even gotten there yet. So thank you. We're going to need your support. We're going to have some giveaways. I have a SHOT Show giveaway to help raise funds for SHOT and future events. Oh, and I'm also going to the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania in February also. So that's what we're doing. And thank you, man, for having us on the show. Listen to me babble. And I appreciate you having me on, G-Webs.
Oh yeah, man, that's half the show. So thanks for jumping on. I hope we're doing. I don't know how many. I think I have it listed on here. Hold on, let me pull us off real quick. Yeah, this is the 77th one, and I probably don't have them numbered well, but hopefully we've accomplished something here with the idea of giving people a perspective. I figured we started kind of all three of us, you, me, and Clover, doing this. I forget what it actually started it anymore, but then once we started doing it a couple of times, it seemed like a good fit for the time when a lot of people were new to guns and exploring guns or whatever. So I figured, let's give people access to three old guys who can sit here talking about our experience from different angles. And judging from the people that have shown up over the years, has it been years? At least over the long time it's been. I appreciate it, and it's a neat way to have an interactivity, instead of just the same old kind of shows. And it uses up one of our websites, Ask Gun Questions. I bought that in 2007. Gun websites, because I like owning websites. I really like the internet. And it's always been just a form that you could ask a question. And back in the days, we would put it on the forum. And it was neat and it was fun. And it did give us a vector, it gave us a constant feed of questions that we would have to talk about. Because sometimes when you get a bunch of people that know each other hanging out together often, every day, you lose topic. You have nothing to talk about. You've talked about everything already. And, it was a cool way to have something new to talk about. And we would answer them and write all this stuff down. But as the internet's gotten faster and everything, I thought this has been to me at least, this has been a great way to play with this concept. So I appreciate you taking the time to do it. Cool. It also gives us a chance to BS off air. So that's always good because we've all three, well, when Clover's around, we all three have different projects going in different directions.
Yeah. One of the projects I'm working on is your media kit. I just watched that this morning about how to build a media kit. What was that? 2-hour video that you made a week before last? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wish it was more of a how-to. I wish, but at least hopefully give people some ideas and some ambition. Because, man, we're about to go to SHOT Show, and I'm sitting here swimming in all the different directions I could take it this year. I got to figure out a couple of directions and start working towards those. Otherwise, it gets to be too late to do any one. And then anyway, there's a lot of potential here. So we'll wrap this one up. We'll say thanks again. Aldo, thanks for interacting so much. And anybody else, there was a bunch of other people out there. They just weren't chatting as much for whatever reason. Maybe they're driving, or maybe they're just doing other things in the world. It is Christmas weekend after all. You're cool with Merry Christmas? That was an issue about 4 years ago. It was somehow was that even an issue, or was that a perceived issue just to mess with people?
What's that?
The whole holidays versus Christmas.
Oh, I think it was just conversation. Now I can give 2 hiccups. Happy holidays if that's for you, and Merry Christmas because, well, that's what everybody's actually celebrating.
That's the thing. I like saying happy holidays when they're coming, because you're talking Thanksgiving, you're talking all the religious ones, you're talking all the just Festivus and fake ones and play ones and stuff. But when Christmas is tomorrow or whatever, I'm going to say Merry Christmas for sure. But anyway, whatever you want to do, it's free country or what. And thanks everybody for jumping in on a holiday weekend. And we'll be back next weekend, which I think is also a New Year's holiday. So that's more completely different holiday that just has to do with the science of numbers or something, or the science of calendars. One of the first questions was from Mike White, and he asked about the calendar. I do hope to get that sometime this week. So Thanks to our Patreons who do give me the ability to even consider taking some time away from the money making things we need to do all the time, to do something like the 2A calendar. I noticed that the Gun Rights Policy Conference is actually planned out. This is unprecedented. Usually they wait till like July to tell us when it's going to happen in September.
Mm-hmm.
This is already out. It's going to be September 27th in
Where?
San Diego, California.
Oh, freaking no. Maybe.
Right?
Well,
So that's
I might be able to. I might be able to get with one of the groups and maybe put on a diversity shoot out there, given that much time.
yeah, you got San Diego gun owners for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah,
the-
and they know me and I know
Yeah.
them, and they've asked me because they do the gun prom every year.
Exactly. Now, I don't know if that coincides with a prom or if they're going to do something. They actually have time to consider it now, right? But nobody's going to be able to carry. It's California, unless something changes big. That's going to be interesting because think of all the whiners that won't do anything without it being perfect for them.
Ooh, I can't carry. I'm not going.
Yeah, Chicago was the last time it went somewhere that anybody cared about because it's been in Texas and Arizona. It's kind of cheating because part of their deal for the longest time was alternating between. They travel every year. The Gun Rights Policy Conference, for people that aren't familiar, is the national level and state level gun owners' rights groups get together. It's hosted by the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, which is the Second Amendment Foundation's like sister organization. One of them can teach and one of them can lobby. So anyway, it's hosted by Second Amendment Foundation each year, and it used to travel. Good for laws, bad for laws. So like San Francisco, Vegas. I don't know if it was ever in Vegas, but like Phoenix, Chicago, Texas. Back and forth between where it would be easy to carry and impossible to carry. So this is back to those kind of roots, taking it to San Diego. And honestly, San Diego gun owners is hopefully it's going there because they're going to win, like advocacy group of the year and stuff, like they're kicking ass. But otherwise, it's just neat to see them take something to California, which gets neglected as bad as New Jersey, probably. I mean, I'd be just happy to see them go to New Jersey, but I'm actually way happier because I can drive to this. Some of y'all have to fly. Literally, could you fly any further away? But it could be any further away. If it was in Hawaii, it would be further away for you.
Mm-hmm. That'd be it. But my understand though, I think it's probably less expensive to fly from Jersey, major hub to major hub. So that's a good thing about it. Bad thing is where it is, but with enough time, and they have it out there, and again, San Diego Gun Club, and hey, maybe we can do a combined thing because I'm definitely working with collaborations this year. I'm trying to get out to Colorado to work with Edward. Santillon. Guns for Everyone.
Yeah, Edgar.
Wow. Edgar. For some reason, my mind kept going Edwin, and I'm like, that is so wrong. But Edgar's awesome people. He's been doing good work with Guns for Everyone, giving free concealed carry classes out in Colorado. And I want to set up something with him because he gets work done.
Dude, you need to get, because he's in Colorado Springs. You need to. It would be ideal to do a diversity shoot at Dragon Man's with Edgar.
Why? Is he out there too?
Yeah, Dragon Man's is just north of the base, north of the fort. Excuse me, just east of Colorado Springs, the city. Yeah,
because if he's out there, I mean, Ava's out there, his daughter. Ava Fennell, and then we have Boomstick Babe. She's in Colorado. Sean Heron's in Colorado, where we like shooting. I just don't know where they are. I don't know where they are.
So look at Colorado, and in the middle is Colorado Springs. Is essentially, if you threw a dart right in the middle of Colorado, everything in Colorado is shifted over to the right because of the Rocky Mountains. But up and down wise, it's essentially right in the middle. Denver's kind of towards the top a little bit, and there's nothing south of it really. There's Pueblo, it's a little bit south of it. But everything in Colorado is on one road that goes north and south because three quarters of Colorado is a mountain and the other quarter is plains. It's just sold some land from Kansas. So it's just plains. Think of where Red Dawn happened, where half of it, the movie, is in the plains where they're in the tanks. And then the other half was the mountains. So Colorado is essentially just this one road. Anyway, so Colorado Springs is right in the middle of Colorado. And that's where Dragon Man's at. So that would be freaking sweet. But here's the thing. Have you been to San Diego at all?
No.
I've only been there a couple of times, and super nice. Everybody always talks about it, but it is a super nice part of the world. Just the environment and the views and the whatnot. As far as cost, though, I'm pretty sure it's going to cost a couple of bucks to hang out there. So
Yeah, of course
that
it
I'm
is.
looking forward to.
Yeah, that's the only thing, but whatever, man.
Yeah,
It's
we were
part
ending
of
this thing. I was just saying
Yeah.
that we're getting the calendar ready, and thanks again to Mike White for the suggestion or the kick in the butt. It is something I'd like to get done, so I'm going to try to get it done this next week here. And then Tony or Plain Nut is saying, I just learned recently the Dragon Man is originally from Long Island.
Wow.
Yeah, he thinks about it every once in a while.
He's got that accent, man. You can hear it.
And with that, we will end this one. Thanks everybody for joining us. In a few hours, you've got Brooke Cheney doing her effort every week for mental health awareness and suicide prevention, knowing that 2 out of every 3 deaths with a firearm are suicides. Brooke gives a focus to that each week so that we become better at talking about these things, so we're more effective talking to and more effective talking to the other side. They'll often, without even realizing it, stand on the graves those points across to ourselves and the people who are at risk, and Brooke puts a light on that each Saturday. No one else is doing that, even at the national level. There's barely 1 or 2 groups that even come near focusing on this, and none of them, even with massive income or massive funding, aren't able to put out a consistent effort. Brooke, who's also got many hats, she's a firearms instructor, mom, and advocate from multiple national level groups or state level groups. She does this project every week, so it's definitely worth checking out. In my opinion, it's the most effective thing that's being done, because normalizing the discussion about mental health is of great value, and if we as gun owners can lead the way on that, then we've accomplished a lot in one piece there. And then after her show, you got Hillbilly Up, who's going to be doing his Christmas show, and after that, Foss is from Washington State. DM Foss does his overnight show. I think it's the Mouse Party tonight, just a non-topic overnight show for people who want to talk about guns and gun-related stuff. Depending on how things go, we might do a knife show in the morning. Gizzard has a show going on Christmas, and I think that's everything I know about to mention. So, what I'm talking about, She Fires has a show tomorrow night. So She Fires will have a show in the afternoon tomorrow as well. So lots of live stuff happening. If you've got things to do, listen to them on the rewinds as you're cleaning up from Christmas, or if you're traveling or you don't got nothing else to do. There are things happening with real people live on the internet. You can be part of those and make some history. All right, I'll let Tony have the last word, and then I'll hit the last button here.
Nope. Hey, thank you. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone. And us at the Gun and Gear Review Podcast going to be back. We plan on being on air Tuesday, man. Like, even though it's the day after Christmas, we stay in with our schedule, man. So see you Tuesday on Firearms Radio Network, Gun and Gear Review Podcast.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.